Introducing Touching Base, connecting Dominicans at home and overseas. Your weekly connection to the Dominican community. Join us every Monday for an episode that brings together Dominicans at home and abroad. Stay tuned for updates, discussions, and features that highlight our politics, culture, traditions, and experiences. Let's stay connected and together strengthen our bond across the globe.
Comrades, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, Donny.
Okay.
Yes, Donny, hearing you loud and clear.
All right. Morrison, can you hear me? Morrison?
Loud and clear, Donny.
Okay.
Mhm.
Senior counsel is having some issues logging in.
So see what it does. It cuts me. Okay.
PM, can you hear us?
Yes, sir. I'm here,
Okay.
hearing you, seeing
Awesome.
some of you.
All right. Hold on. Senior counsel call me again. Hold on. Hey, comrades, you could put on your videos. Put on your videos, Mr. Mills. Mr. Mills, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, but my video is stopped by the host.
I didn't stop your video. Right. Anyway, let's start. Good evening. Good evening. Good evening. I extend a warm welcome to all Dominicans back home and all Dominicans residing at various locations overseas. I also extend a very warm welcome to the many foreign nationals who are also tuned in from all across the world. We bring to you a very special edition of our weekly Monday night program, Touching Base. Tonight's program is being streamed live on Facebook, YouTube, and also broadcasted live via VTJM Radio based in Queens, New York. My name is Donovan Fabian, and I'm delighted to be your host. Joining me tonight is Mr. Morrison Thomas, Mr. Cleville Mills, Mr. Kirby Samuel, and we'll have Senior Counsel Anthony Astafan joining us a little bit later. We'll also have a brief comments from selected personnel who have access to the Zoom link. Tonight is indeed a very special program because we are fortunate to have a very special guest who has graciously agreed to take time off his extremely busy schedule to join us on tonight's discussion. We will discuss a range of topics, and we look forward to hearing from someone who has a wealth of experience in the field of politics. After all, he once held the record for being the youngest head of government in the world and currently holds the record of being one of the longest serving prime ministers in the Caribbean. At this point in time, it is my distinct pleasure and incredible honor to introduce to you the Prime Minister of Dominica, Honorable Dr. Roosevelt Skerrit. Prime Minister, good night, thank you, and welcome to Touching Base.
Well, let me say good evening to you, Donnie, to Kirby, to Cleville Mills, and to Morrison Thomas, and of course the other co-hosts and contributors to the Touching Base program. I'll just give a special regard to Derek Mann and his family, and of course to your viewing and listening public. It is my honor to be here on this program, and I am here to answer your questions, to react to comments, questions from your listenership, if there are questions. So it's always for me a privilege and honor to be exposed to questions and queries and clarifications on what we're doing for Dominica, and not only Dominica, but also regional global issues. As you know, we are preoccupied with the Haiti situation. You know, and I'm sure we'll get some time to speak to it. I'm hoping, but I am at your disposal. I have come here with for tabla rasa, a blank slate. No notes whatsoever. I do not know what questions you're going to ask me. So I am at your disposal.
Well, I hope you're ready for some serious fast bowling tonight.
No problem. No problem. Those I can't deliver. I'll let them pass. To get some buys.
All right. But PM, again, thank you very, very much. You know, it's not very often we get people of your stature, you know, joining us on our program, and we're very happy for that. We know the fans are very excited. So we look forward to a very meaningful discussion, and that's what we expect every time we meet and we discuss. Okay, so I will we're going to go around the table. We're going to ask questions, and also a little later on in the proceedings, we'll open the Zoom link to our comrades who want to ask questions, and also we'll also check the Facebook and, you know, ask a few questions from the public also. That's okay with you?
That's fine with me. I'm sure, certainly.
Okay. All right. So, but I will start the ball rolling. And one thing, as a senior politician, one who has been chairman of CARICOM on several occasions, there seemed to be a serious issue, PM, with regional travel. Back in the day, as a young boy growing up, we could jump on Liat and we could fly to any Caribbean island, at cheap rates, very, very convenient, very easy. Now it's like a puzzle to get to another island. What is the measures or the intention of the Caribbean leaders to work a solution to this very significant problem, PM?
Yeah, thank you very much for the question. I want to backtrack a bit. What is happening with regional travel currently is a vindication of the government's decision to invest in Liat 1974 Limited. If you recall, when I took a decision on behalf of the government to invest in Liat and become a shareholder of Liat, we were heavily criticized by the opposition in Dominica. They said we were investing in a failed company. They said we were investing in a company that is in the red. They said that we were investing in a company that wasn't making a profit. And they said that this is money that we're throwing in the Caribbean skies. I recall saying to Dominicans that it was absolutely important for Dominica to invest in Liat and become a shareholder, because the service Liat was providing was a public good. That if we do not have Liat in the skies for one day in the Caribbean, it could have a serious negative impact on the way of life of every single citizen, every single investor, every single hotelier in the Caribbean. I would have preferred to have been wrong on that, and that we would still have Liat flying in the skies. And so this is what happens sometimes. Everything we do in this country, there are opposition elements to it. And people who do not have foresight and who do not have an understanding of how things work are quick to criticize. And we are committed to continue investment in Liat, in a Caribbean outfit. I have said to the Prime Minister Brown, we're prepared to invest. But we are also working in the sub-region, let's say the OECS, on looking at the establishment of some kind of air communication, some kind of airline that could pile the skies of the Caribbean and improve on connectivity in the Caribbean. We're working with Inter-Caribbean. As a matter of fact, two weekends ago, I had a meeting in Dominica with the owner of Inter-Caribbean to look at additional routes, not only within the Caribbean. So they may very well be very soon a flight from Antigua to Dominica direct from Inter-Caribbean. We're looking at Inter-Caribbean as well, additional flight into San Juan, Dominica direct. And we're also engaging him in discussions with regards to a Fort Lauderdale Dominica direct, because he has acquired some jets. And so we're waiting some proposals from him to improve the connectivity. But the reality is, Donnie and colleagues, for there to be a feeling of a gap that Liat has created, a significant gap that Liat has created, because notwithstanding the fact of Inter-Caribbean being present, Caribbean Airlines is helping us in a huge way as well. And we also have, in respect to San Juan, we have Silver Airlines. But for an airline to properly service the Caribbean, you must have government involvement, because it is a public good. This is like providing pipe-borne water to a country. You may not see the investments in terms of dollars into the treasury, but access to potable drinking water is important to public health and sanitation. And if you don't have pipe-borne water in a community, you are allowing for the possibility and the opportunity for health issues to arise. And so this is what LIAT is providing. And so I believe that governments must play a part. And so we're discussing among ourselves. It is not a straightforward matter, but the government is prepared to invest in an airline outfit that is going to help address the gap that LIAT has created as a result of its demise. I think, Donnie, you're on mute.
Yeah. Anybody else have any follow-up questions on this topic? Okay, well, I have another question. So PM, what is the how do you see the cooperation among Caribbean leaders, when it pertains to solving this issue?
I think everybody is almost in a desperate situation, and are eager to help address the situation. I mean, we've had several meetings among ourselves in the OECS in particular, to see whether we can come with some kind of solution. There have been proposals put forward to us, some of which we're examining still, and we've had meetings recently with those doing the proposal. To see the idea is in the solution. There have been proposals put forward to us, some of which we're examining still, and we've had meetings recently with those doing the proposal. The idea is in the
Somebody's mic is okay. Kojak, mute your mic, please. Sorry, PM. Proceed.
So the idea is not necessarily for us to own the airline company, but if it comes to the point where we have to own it, we're prepared to own it. So we're looking at different iterations in terms of offers and proposals as to how we can address the issue. But there is a concern. It is very difficult to get to the Caribbean, and that is impacting heavily on tourism or tourism numbers, not only in Dominica but for the Caribbean. And so there's a sense of urgency on the part of regional leaders. But certainly we have to put our money on the table if we're to in any way address the current challenge since the demise of LIAT.
Comrades, go ahead.
Yeah, PM, can I jump in?
Sure.
Is there a real? I'm very happy, to tell you the honest truth, to hear you indicate your willingness to invest with the new LIAT 2020. Is there a reluctance with the other heads of government to participate in that airline? You may not wish to tell me the reasons why, but is there resistance to it?
I think, I've said so many times publicly, I think we have to give credit to Gaston Brown, Prime Minister of Antigua and Barbuda, for already attempting and with some success to keep LIAT, albeit LIAT 2020, flying. As you know, we had taken a loan, as I say, the 4 shareholders of LIAT had taken a loan from the Caribbean Development Bank to purchase those airplanes. We have all agreed to sell the 2 airplanes to Antigua and Barbuda at a particular rate. And so very soon I'm hoping that agreement for the sale of the planes to Antigua would be consummated and finalized. But I can speak for Dominica. We are prepared to invest in LIAT 2020. There's an opportunity for us to invest in it. And I believe that there'll be others who may be interested in investing in it, but I cannot say so emphatically. But for Dominica, certainly, I can say so without any fear of contradiction.
Well, I asked PM because it's of critical importance, and I'm very happy to see that you have a multifaceted approach to this LIAT and some other thing, because I had some friends travel recently, and there's a constant complaint despite the best efforts of the Service of Inter-Caribbean. And I've heard ministers in St. Lucia, I've heard the Prime Minister of St. Vincent speak about it. So while it's necessary to support them or have bilateral arrangements with them, I think it's in the public interest to get LIAT off the ground again with the
Yeah.
participation of the OECS government.
Yeah, I agree. I must say though, all fairness to Inter-Caribbean, I mean, the reality is they are the ones providing the greater part of the service now. And I think they came in at a time when in COVID, just when LIAT had gone under. And so they were the only airline flying in the skies of the Caribbean. And so as time passes by, they have been improving on their service, increasing the number of planes to provide services to the Caribbean. I would caution them against though having too many routes sometimes, but that's a matter for their business model to determine. But I think without them, I try not to. I try to commend any efforts by anybody to provide that service. And our approach is to work with everybody who is providing the service. So we are very open in terms of our engagement with parties. And I really want to commend the owner of Inter-Caribbean. I mean, like everything else, we will have batch flights on American or British Airways or something like that. But I look at the glass half full rather than half empty. And the reality is they are providing and have been providing a tremendous service to the Caribbean. And I think as time goes by or passes by, there seems to be an improvement in the services and the quality of the planes, et cetera, et cetera. So we're looking on the positive side of it, but I think they are unable, and I don't think they'll be able to fill the gap in the time frame and the speed that we want. And so this is why I believe an outfit like LIAT that knows the skies, it is a known entity. I think we should quite possibly look at investments in LIAT and to get more planes added to the two that Prime Minister Gaston Brown and the government are seeking to acquire, and take it from there, because we have I think the number of good things going for LIAT. You have the facilities in Antigua, the maintenance facility in Antigua, it's a multi-million-dollar asset. You have staff that we can start with. So I think it will be a good opportunity for us to seriously engage on LIAT 2020 and to see what we can do to get 3-4 more planes in the skies. Thank you.
Kirby, I know you want to say something.
Yes, Donnie. Thank you very much for the recognition. Good evening to you, PM. I hope you're doing well.
I'm very well. Congratulations. I saw you. You gave your daughter to Christ recently.
Yes, I did, sir. Thank you so much. Means a lot coming from you. I wanted to sort of segue on the question that Donnie asked as it relates to inter-regional travel. You would no doubt be aware that the governments of Guyana, Trinidad, and Barbados have recently started exploring or making firm steps towards having that interconnection via the ferry route. Now, I know it may not be feasible to have ferries running up and down the entire Caribbean because of distance, but I wanted to get your thoughts on this, particularly given, one, as outgoing chairman, you would have worked a lot on the whole question that CARICOM is putting forward now to bring forward the free movement of citizens. So in that context, as well as the context of the movement of goods and services throughout the entire region more. So I just wanted, against that sort of background, to get your idea or your position on it. If it's something that we would look at or you see as being feasible in the OECS islands as it is being now put in place in Guyana, Trinidad, and Barbados. Thank you.
Yeah, I think we support, and we've supported, and we continue to support the move towards the regional ferry service. Obviously, this lends itself to some complications in terms of the port facility, because it'd be a sort of a roll-on, roll-off arrangement where you could bring in your vehicles, containers, etc. On this ferry. So it's only movement of people, but also movement of goods. The reality is we certainly have to seek to address the movement of people. And the airlines will not be sufficient to move people. The people who are moving for different reasons. As you know, for many years now, many decades now, we have the ferry service between Dominica, Guadeloupe, Martinique, and St. Lucia. And when you look at the numbers who come through the ferry service in Dominica, it's huge. It's the largest number of people who come into the country via the ferry service. If we can get people from Antigua to use the ferry service, if we can get people from lower down in St. Vincent, Barbados, to get the ferry service, so that there can be a link from Barbados to St. Vincent, St. Lucia, Martinique, and to complement what the existing ferry services are doing. Obviously, I believe if we have increased ferry service from between the French territories and Dominica and Antigua and St. Lucia, we will see more throughput of tourists coming to Dominica. So one can imagine if we extend this. So I think what has been proposed, and we've been working on this for some time now, for a while. I mean, way back when Patrick Manning was Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, way back when Owen Affer, may so rest in peace, both of them may they so rest in peace, were Prime Ministers. So one can understand how way back we started working on this, and there have been a number of offers and so forth. So I think the bold step taken by Barbados and Trinidad and Guyana, I think, is in the right direction. It's a matter for us now to jump on board as we seek to introduce this service, but also expand it. Now, these things cost money. You know, a lot of operations. It requires government intervention, and I think, you know, colleagues and of course the viewers and listeners, I think the private sector of the Caribbean needs to step forward. The private sector can't leave all of those things to government. The hoteliers have to get involved in terms of how do you help work with the government to address airlift, because you're one of the major beneficiaries of the airlift. Those entities who are involved in the procurement of goods and services, how can we work together to bring together the ferry service? Because in a lot of countries, yes, you have government support, but the foundational investments are made by private sectors. And I think that there has to be a coming of maturity within the Caribbean community, within the private sector, of their involvement beyond just the investment that they have, beyond just this market, beyond just the hotel, beyond just the real estate development of the condominiums or the Airbnb that becomes so popular even in Dominica. So beyond that, and how can we join together? Because if you need $10 million to buy 2 planes, for example, can the private sector not pay for one, the government pays for the other? You know, and we have a 50% stake in the company each. And so you not only bring your resources, but your expertise, because the reality is, I really don't believe governments should run anything. You know, I believe in the private sector. I believe the private sector should be allowed to run things, you know, airlines and ferry services, you know, these kinds of things, hotels. I believe that the private sector should be the ones who should be at the forefront and the center of investing and managing these things. The government will provide the enabling environment, the concessions, the fiscal incentives, and where we can, the financial involvement. But other than that, I believe the private sector should be tasked to run these things, to manage these things.
Yes, thank you, Pierre.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Morrison, I see you're itching to go, so let's go.
Thank you, Donnie. Thank you so much. Thank you. First off, I'd like to say good evening and welcome, Prime Minister.
Thank you, sir. Good evening to you.
Thank you. Thank you for accepting our invitation to our Touching Base Zoom show. We truly appreciate you being here with us to help dispel facts from fiction. I'd also like to commend you on your leadership, your stewardship in bringing Dominica back from the devastations we've experienced in recent years with new housing, education, healthcare, hospitality initiatives, and new road infrastructure, launching Dominica into the new dynamic phase for a better and a more resilient Dominica. This evening, I know we have many topics we want to discuss with you tonight. I'm looking forward to address whatever's being particular, what safety measures and security measures that are in place or earmarked for future implementation with law enforcement infrastructure, Coast Guard vigilance, and to set up a sort of forensic department to combat civil and cyber security crimes.
Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of discussions around this, not only from a Dominica standpoint in terms of cybersecurity and security more broadly, but also for a regional process of impacts. You're talking about the RSS, of course, with our international partners, the US, the British, the Canadians, the French. We are working on all fronts to enhance the security of Dominica, but also the security of the region and the security of the world. Security now is very costly to governments because you have so many issues to confront that you did not have to confront 10 and 15 years ago where crime is concerned. Issue of safety measures, there are additional efforts the police are taking, some of which I cannot speak to publicly and partnership with our international partners. I believe we are in a better position now than we were 15 or 20 years ago in terms of intelligence gathering, again, with the support of our international partners. The tools of trade, as you guys call it in the business, with the support of our partners on our own investments, those things have been improved and allowing the police to get access. I think, I mean, security is a dynamic and evolving issue. What obtains yesterday is different from tomorrow and for today. And therefore, we have to keep on ensuring that we are ahead of the game, so to speak. We are and we're a bit slow on this, and I say slow because we should have started the training of additional men and women to put on the streets and to ensure that we can increase the numbers. I'm hoping that if we can start very soon, we'll be training some 50 or so people, and after that another 50 to increase the complement of police officers in the country. And so we prepared on the legislative side to take necessary action to enhance the security. But at the end of the day, as you know better than me, crime is a societal issue, and it requires the society to play its part in solving crime. The government alone cannot solve crime. Government has a part to play, a role to play, but each of us in the society has a role to play in fighting crime and enhancing citizens' security. I must say, though, I must commend the police, because sometimes we criticize the police and so on, but our police force in Dominica are really doing a fantastic job under the circumstances.
Yes, sir.
Really doing a fantastic job under the circumstances. It's not perfect. There's always room for improvement. You only stop learning when you're dead. And so once you're alive, there'll be new things to learn. There'll be new things to confront. But I believe that the police are energized. They're motivated. The leadership of the police force are motivated and committed to the task. And I think that in large measure has placed us in a much more safer circumstance than some of our regional partners. And I'm hoping that by the grace of God, we can maintain the security and safety of Dominica. Dominica is by far the safest place in the Caribbean.
Yes.
I'm not saying so to boast, or I'm not saying so to bring on any other country, because every other country may have its own circumstance to deal with and so forth. But we want to ensure that we keep Dominica as safe as Dominica is today, tomorrow.
Yes. So, Prime Minister, it seems that you answered everything that I threw, even the follow-up questions that I had for you.
I'm sorry about that.
Really and truly, my question is it was about national security, and I always, just hope that you and your families are always safe, well protected, and that Dominica will always remain safe too. I worry about you and your family safety to the extent that I'm confident that the security of our country, you know, is, you know, really, as you discussed before, really formidable, and that is also a priority for you. I'd follow that up by saying, you know, I know that you addressed it, but can Dominicans sleep well at nights knowing that you are at the helm of the country, irrespective of what the opposition would like to project out to the world at large?
Well, I mean, Dominicans must define me based on past experience, and we all know that during my tenureship as Prime Minister, we have faced many challenges, from earthquake to flooding to hurricanes to tropical storms to a Category 5 hurricane, but people are saying a Category 6. Had there been a Category 6, would have been Category 6. You're talking about the pandemic. When you look at our response to the pandemic as compared to even developed countries, we did not leave any stone unturned to ensure the safety and well-being of citizens. You know, and sometimes people don't understand. When the other countries were in the face of COVID, were offering stimulus packages, and Dominicans were putting pressure on me and putting every country in the Caribbean about stimulus packages. I said to them, we do not have an economic crisis.
Right.
We have a health imperative, and we have to ensure that we keep people safe and alive.
Yep.
Because when I go and give you
very costly.
When I go and give you a incentive, the stimulus package, so I give it to you today. I do not pay any attention to your safety where health is concerned. Tomorrow you're dead. What is that going to do for you? So the government's plan was to keep people alive. Once we kept people alive and we live to see another day, then we can talk about stimulus package. But we had a health imperative. So while other countries were busy looking for money, they didn't have to give these packages. We were building a hospital. We were outfitting the hospital with X-ray machines and the likes, ventilators, ensuring that doctors and nurses have the PPE, ensuring that we have enough doctors and nurses and orderlies and pharmacists to provide care to patients. That we fetched monies to ensure that everybody who was working in Dominica took home a wage, even if they were at home doing nothing, including those in the private sector. And so we spent tens of millions of dollars investing in the healthcare in Dominica, and also ensuring that people had enough to eat and people had access to food and supplies during this pandemic. And I think when the history of Dominica is written, there must be a couple paragraphs on how to respond to a pandemic, the Dominica way, the Dominica way. And so when opposition elements were talking about 15,000 people going to die, and half of and 70,000 are going to be infected and so forth, and they were on their knees praying for this to happen, we were toiling, we were providing leadership, we were providing the hope, the confidence, and the peace of mind to Dominicans. And we did not send people home to die. We took care of them free of cost, and ensured that even people who had acute cases of non-communicable diseases, hypertensive, diabetic, people who were cancer patients, we provided them with care that allowed them to see through this circumstance. And I just saw a friend of mine 2 weeks ago in Daly's, who had contracted COVID, Mr. Daru, very good friend of mine in Daly's. He said so publicly, so that's why I'm repeating from him. He's diabetic. He was diabetic. He was hypotensive. He's hypotensive. He's also asthmatic. And the man got COVID, and we brought him down to Portsmouth, and he is there for us today, alive and well.
Amen.
Alive and well. And he gave that testimony. So I'm only repeating what he said, and not verbatim, but repeating some of the things he said. And there are many other people in Dominica who went along there, and who, because of the equipment we had, because of the medical care we had, because of the medication we had, we never ran out of medication. We never ran out of PPE. When The ventilators couldn't be found anywhere. We got 15 from China. You know what we did with some of them? We gave to our sisters in the Caribbean. So we became a net exporter of PPEs and ventilators and test kits and whether it's some PCR test kits or rapid tests. We never ran out of those things. We bought a lot on our own, and friendly governments gave us. We're the first country to have gotten COVID-19 vaccines from India, and we shared with the entire Caribbean. When in developed countries, ordinary people, especially the working class, could not have access to vaccines in their own countries. We had enough to give Dominicans each maybe 10 doses of the vaccines, those who wanted it.
Yep.
So this is what we did. This is what we did. So we provided leadership to the country, and the country do so. So we're not afraid of any circumstance, and I believe that Dominicans know, including those who don't support me. They said, "Boy, but one thing, boy, I had to liberate, but thank God Skerrit is the Prime Minister of Dominica in this time." There's no way Workers' Party could do so. And somebody have been honest to say so. Somebody, unfortunately, they say so privately to people.
I've heard that.
But that's what it is, and that's the reality. You know, in these difficult times, you need someone with, and I'm saying so with the greatest sense of humility. I'm not boasting myself or anything. I'm just stating the fact that you need, in these difficult times in the world, you need leadership of experience. This is not a time for people to come and try to learn. They have to learn from experience. But if you do not have experience to teach them, you have difficulties. Dealing with Haiti, dealing with the situation between Israel and Hamas and the implications of that, the Russia-Ukraine war and the challenges of that, and you just came from a pandemic, a natural disaster. You know, I mean, 226% of the GDP affected. Our GDP may have been affected by about 40 or 50% during the pandemic. And in addition to, on top of the 90% that was affected by Erica. So just imagine 2015, 90%, 2017, 226%, 2020, 21, 22, 23, 2022, about 50% of the GDP affected. And you have to sustain the economy, you have to rebuild infrastructure, you have to rebuild people's lives and livelihoods, all these things. So when you look at this thing, and you know, anybody with a pure heart and a sincerity would say that this Labour Party really has been a godsend, and the extraordinary work that we have done to rebuild Dominica. I mean, everyone on this Zoom here, for example, everyone listening to us said that Dominica was finished, and they did not say so out of excitement or they say so because of what they saw, and we all agreed, including myself, that it will take us 20 years to rebuild. You understand? But we had lights back within less than 2 years, everywhere in Dominica. We had water back in less than 6 months, everywhere in Dominica. All roads were passable within weeks of the disaster. You know, not because we sat on our hands. No, we were out there with our boots and our sleeves and bare shirted, working to do what we have to do. At the same time, crisscrossing the world, raising funds for Dominica, mobilizing international support to ensure that we had what it took to rebuild our country, and see where we are. Look at the quality of our housing, the quality of our infrastructure. Yes, until you're dead, you always have some things to do. There'll be always something to do. You know, even at your homes. I mean, you buy a fridge 3 months ago, something wanted to buy the fridge, you have to buy a new one. You know, and so the money that you have for something else, you have to take enough to buy the fridge because you need fresh meat, and you need your fish and your children's juice for school and so on. So you have all of those things compounded. Then the Russia-Ukraine war with the increase in petroleum products, and you know, you have to subsidize electricity at Domlec and forego millions of dollars. You have to subsidize the petroleum products at the pump. So there are a number of things that we've had to do to sustain people's livelihoods and so forth. And also tell you, you know, when the hurricane hit, there was a recommendation from the finance people to cut people's salaries. Because we're not making any monies. Right. We will to bring everything into the into the country VAT-free, duty-free. And there's also a view that persons who are staying home, let us cut back on the public service. But you know what I did? I didn't only keep people's salaries as it was. But we had promised people extra salary before the hurricane. Right? And I said, look, let us pay the people, because if there was a time that people needed that extra salary, it was now.
More
You
than
understand?
ever.
And we paid the people the extra salary in the month of September, or I think September. The time of the hurricane, we paid the people the extra salary. And everybody was shocked because they expected not to get a salary. And here it is, they not only getting their salary, but they get another salary, a double bubble. And not only that, Mr. Thomas, we also paid the salaries of many private sector employees. Because I always said to the cabinet and to the Ministry of Finance at the time, I said, in times like this, we have to maintain the dignity of a human being. That a man must be able to take a wage to his family. You understand? And so to cut people off the breadline because we're not making money. So I could have saved the money. That's what I'm saying. I could have saved the millions that we paid the private sector workers' salaries for several months. I mean, Dominica was not a government company at the time, for example, and we paid staff at Dominica. We paid engineers at Dominica because Dominica needed the support to bring electricity to Dominica as fast as possible. So we paid some of their staff salaries there after the hurricane for several months. And many private sector employees, everybody in the public sector received their salaries. The same thing happened during COVID. Public servants stayed home, including those who were temporary workers. We paid everybody's salary because we wanted to maintain the dignity of a human being, that you could take home a wage and pay your bills and not feel a lesser man and so forth. And so these are sacrifices that we made, and sometimes our citizens, for one reason or the other, want to forget those things. And so it's always important for us to repeat those things or to remind people of those things, to understand where we were and where we are now as a country. When you look at I don't want to preempt your questions, or I don't know whether you have a question like this, but when you look at education, for example, I mean, when we came into government, and some people don't like to hear it, but facts are stubborn things. When we came to government, only 7% of high school graduates had access to the college. 7 out of 100. Which means 93 out of 100 did not make it to college. When we came to government, 44% of primary school graduates had access to secondary school. I mean, I owe Kirby's father an eternal debt of gratitude. That when he came to my classroom to hold on for a teacher who was absent, and I was quizzing him on international affairs, and when he watched, he went back to his office and looked at my grades. And the guy came back, Mr. Samuel came back and told me to take my desk and my chair and come. And he walked me to the common entrance class. So, but why aren't you in common entrance class? You understand? And that's why I got to secondary school, and I was not a Downs guy. I was among the top students in the class at the time. So I don't know why they didn't put me there, but thank God that teacher was absent that day, and Mr. Samuel came to hold on, and that's how I ended up in secondary school. So 40% of our school didn't have access to secondary school, and we came into government in the middle of an economic crisis because if we had bankrupt the country, we were not able to pay anybody their salaries, and in the middle of an IMF program, we embarked upon a mission to revolutionize access to education. And not only access to education, but the means of taking advantage of access to education. So students now, 100% since 2005 have access to secondary school, and 100% have access to college in Dominica. And the thousands that we have sent to university. I keep saying, Dominica is on fire, my brother. It is a heat in Dominica, caused by the many degrees that Dominicans have. And all of which are earned by us in Dominica. And when you talk about law and people studying law, for example, when we came to government, you could not have gotten a loan from the aid bank to go and study law in Dominica. We changed that in 2000 when we came in and allowed Dominicans to go and get a loan at the aid bank to go and study law in Dominica in any way they wanted. And so we revolutionized access to education, not only access, but the means of taking advantage of the access. Because you could have a free pass to a nightclub, but if they say that you need a bell bottom to come in and you don't have it, you can't go in. Yeah, you hear what I'm saying? So we provided the means for students by providing free transportation, free books, textbooks, free uniform, free school bags to get into school. You understand? Plus meals at school in some of the primary schools. So we're able to provide not only access, but the means of taking advantage of this. People will say we owe for students studying at universities overseas. Yes, we owe sometimes. But look at how much we have paid in the years that we've been sending students to study. And we owed Midwestern about $3 million US. It is now down to $489,000 because we're paying, and it's a commitment we gave that every child we give a commitment to, even if it might be late sometimes, we are committed to honoring every single commitment we've made to Dominican students. And you guys, some of you guys are in America, and you have the statistics better than me. Look at the statistics of America, how many students owe in the federal government. Look at how many students in America who have dropped out of school because they cannot afford to pay for school. Look at many of our Caribbean children who were born in America, whose parents owe the federal government tens of thousands of dollars for student loans to send their children to school. The average Dominican goes to school, he's not owing anybody, he's not owing a bank, he's not owing the government. And if he owes, it might be to upkeep himself there, but not for tuition because we cover this tuition. And of course, we committed to doing that, to ensuring that access is open up and opportunities are created to Dominicans, notwithstanding the challenges. And even during the hurricane, after the hurricane, when we could have told students, we have no money, come home. We took a decision in the government that if there was any time when we need to ensure that our students stayed in school, was after the hurricane. And we didn't only commit to paying their wages, their tuition, which we paid 100% at the time, notwithstanding the hurricane. We also provided them with a special allowance because I went to some campuses to see students. I went to Barbados, I went to Trinidad, I met the students because I knew the parents had no money. I knew the parents had to fix their roofs. I knew the parents had to rebuild their homes. I knew some of the parents lost their businesses, and we provided the students with a living allowance so they could buy groceries. And some of them who had to pay their rent had money to pay the rent. That's what we did today for the Dominican students. So there's absolutely no government in the history of Dominica, including the Labour Party of the 70s and 60s, who can top this Labour Party in terms of its investment in education at all levels in Dominica. All levels, from early childhood to the grave. So we have been educating children from birth up until we take them to the cemetery.
Excellent.
Yes. And so so one can say we're the infrastructure party, we're the education party, we're the health party, we're the economic diversification party, we're the tourism party, we're the agriculture party, we're the culture party, we're the festivals party, you name it.
Yes.
This government has revolutionized. Are things perfect? No. Do we have a lot more to do? Of course we have a lot more to do. And this is why we're pressing on.
Like many other countries.
Notwithstanding the global challenges, we're pressing on.
Yeah, may I ask you a question? You spoke of education, your education revolution, which is beyond question. But at about the same time, your government, yourself and your government began a program of social economic program for the alleviation of poverty and suffering, like the Yes We Care program, pit latrine eradication, house repair, access to potable water, and so on. What in light of what you said about education, being a former teacher yourself, I can understand your inspiration for that. But what inspired you? What made you focus on the poor, the vulnerable, the suffering, those that needed Yes We Care help, pit latrine eradication, and so on, which are fundamentally important humanization programs that humanize the human being. What inspired you to do that at the difficult times of the IMF program as well?
Yeah. Well, Tony, I mean, from that, ideologically and philosophically, I believe that we have a duty to the poor and the less fortunate. And I'll tell people, and I'm not saying so just in passing. When I was a student in the United States of America, I didn't have government support. I worked every single day to help pay for my tuition, in addition to what the money my mother was sending to me to pay for school. Sometimes I paid the semester on credit cards, etc. And notwithstanding that I had to be raising funds to pay for school, I every month I send money through a religious mission to help force students to go to school in Haiti. That's back in the 90s. And so from the little wage I was getting, I would send money to them. And I would get photographs of the children, their grades at school, sending through a religious mission in it. So, and I believe that we have a fundamental duty and obligation as a government, as a people, to look after the poor and the less fortunate, And so the SPK came about, Tony. I go to La Plaine, and I spent a night in La Plaine. And very early in the morning, Peter Saint-Jean and myself, who was the then power rep for La Plaine, took an early morning walk about after 6 in the morning. And that morning it was raining. And we stumbled over a couple that lived very close to the Catholic Church in La Plaine. And the old man was out there, out in the outside fireside with wood, trying to light some fire. Now it's cold. Can you imagine his struggle in lighting the firewood to ostensibly to make coffee for his wife? So I went into the yard and I said hi to him. I looked inside the house. You could see that the house had not been cleaned. The sheets hadn't been washed. You can see the lady hadn't gotten her hair combed for some time, etc. So I asked Peter, are these people getting government help? Are there any public assistance? He said yes. Then I said, but it clearly that the assistance we get is not addressing the issue. You understand? And this is where the SPK was born. This is where the whole concept of the SPK was born, by visiting this family. His wife was from the Senegal. I think she died or something ago. The gentleman has since passed, and so forth. And we came about with this program of sending people to your homes, because there are many senior citizens who do not want to leave their homes. That's where they grew up for 80, 90 years. They have a family there. They don't want to go to the grotto home. They do not want to go to the infirmary. They don't want to go to a home at all. They want to stay where they are. And so we decided to come up with a program where we can send people to cook for you, to clean for you, to comb you, to do some pedicure and manicure for you, to bathe you and to let you know that we care. And it came to me, call it Yes We Care. So that when we go there, we tell them, yes, we care. And we're grateful for what you've done for us. And you recall the first set of money I got was from Gaddafi, Libya. And the opposition said, oh, well, that program is going on for 1 year because Skerrit only got money from Libya for 1 year. And after the 1 year, it's done, and so forth, and so forth. But I always say, where there's a will, there's a way, and God will provide. And here we are. 15 years later, the program is going strong, providing that kind of love and affection for people. Then you have the issue of the other social safety net program, the free healthcare, for example. I went to the Carnago territory once. I was doing home visits. And I came across a gentleman. The man is in bed, sick, pain. So I said to the granddaughter, but why isn't he at the hospital? And she said, Prime Minister, we owe in the hospital. We owe in the hospital. The time the UWP had the user fees. We owe in the hospital. And from there, in that house in the Carnago territory, I called and I said, with immediate effect, all monies owed to the hospital by the indigenous people of Dominica, I'm waiving them. And I waive all of the monies owed by Carnago people to the hospital. And I went to cabinet the following day, and I directed that Carnago people 60 and older and 18 and older will pay no medical bills in Dominica. And then I extended to the national picture of nationally where Dominicans 16 over and 18 and younger do not pay anything at the hospital. And so a lot of those programs are born out of my interaction with people, seeing how people live and people survive. And at the same time, through my own ideological and philosophical views, but also to fundamentally the founding principles of the Dominican Labour Party. And so I know sometimes I'm criticized because people feel I'm spending too much money on these things. But let us do the inverse. If we do not spend money on these things, how much is it going to cost you to fix the problem?
Mm-hmm.
You understand? To fix the problem. And we have to be caring society. We cannot preoccupy ourselves with, okay, I had a meal tonight, but what about the neighbor? Did the neighbor have something to eat tonight? And so we have to be a caring society. And so I know I am criticized, even within my own party sometimes. People feel I'm giving freeness and I'm spending too much money on this and Skerrit spoiling people and all these things. But it's not spoiling people. Put yourself in the person's shoes. And if you live in that circumstance, what would you want people to do for you? And I could have said to myself, I went to school, I paid for school myself, I paid a credit card, and so forth, and straight to go and pay. If the government of the day, which is the Workers' Party, was giving people assistance to go and study, I would have maybe applied and gotten from them. You know what I'm saying? And so, because every struggle we went through, we must not allow the succeeding generations to go through it. That's why our forebears fought for emancipation, because they did not want succeeding generations to be born into this circumstance. And therefore, we must not be wary of helping people. We must not be, government cannot boast of its ability to pay this and pay that, and the average person can't pay this and pay that. We have to have a balance. And so while we are responsible, we must also be responsive. And this is how we go about doing this. And so I'm senior counsel. I mean, it is an extraordinary cost to us. It costs us a lot of money. But if we do not do this, what is the cost of fixing the problem? And today, even because of our housing revolution, because of our national employment program, our poverty numbers have dropped dramatically. Because you take a poor person and you give that person $1,000 a month. That person has access to water. That person has access to light. That person has access to telephone. That person's children have access to school. And when that person's child goes to school, he has a glass of milk in the morning, and he has lunch at school. And he has free books, free uniform. So all of these people are completely out of poverty because the government's social and economic policies of empowering the people. And so if you run a poverty assessment in Dominica, there will be no indigence in Dominica. I believe indigence in Dominica is at 0. And we would have dramatically reduced the poverty rate in Dominica by direct, considerate government's economic and social policy programs. And this is why it's so important. We must ensure that we can sustain those programs so that people can continue to live decent lives. Are there people who challenge in Dominica? Of course, there will be people who challenge in Dominica. Mm-hmm. Understand? But that's why we must not give up. This is why we must continue fighting and continue looking for the resources and fetching the resources to be able to sustain those programs, because these programs mean so much to so many people across Dominica. And we are examples to the rest of the world. I mean, governments now having the manifestos. If you read regional Labour Party manifestos, you will see that they have a center in their program the eradication of pit latrines. I mean, and when we declared that we're going to eradicate pit latrines, men laugh. Men chastise us, men criticize us. Only to find out 6 months later, the United Nations declared the year of eradication of pit latrines. We were ahead. I believe that I should have sent a bill to the United Nations, for stealing my idea. Had I known that, I should have copyrighted anything, and we would get royalties now. But these ideas come because we're here as a party to serve people. And if you don't come to serve people, if you cannot show sacrifices that you've made to serve people, then you have a problem. And so this is why we're head and shoulders above all political entities in Dominica, because this is a party that is there to serve people. We're about people. These others are about jealousy, envy, greed, misinformation,
Yes.
vilification. That's what they're about. Hate. That's what
Yep.
they're about. But we're about love. We're about peace. We're about progress. We're about empowering people. We're about love. We're about trust. We're about integrity. We're about everything that is good, because we have to serve the people of Dominica. Are we perfect? No. Can we do more? We ought to do more. Should we do more? We have to do more. But are we doing an excellent job in Dominica? I would say, with the greatest sense of humility, yes.
Yeah, I
Very
have a
grateful.
follow-up question for you. And I truly am very moved by your explanations about the social economic program. Has the PM gone?
No, I think maybe
I'm
just
there.
Oh,
I was
I'm
drink-
sorry,
I'll-
PM.
I'll drink some
I-
water. Like, I don't want to spill the water in my face, and then
No, I have a follow-up question for you, PM.
sure.
Following, I think Dominicans need to know a little bit more about Roosevelt Skerrit's reactions as a prime minister to certain things. What was it like watching and surveying the destruction of Erica and Maria? And how did you, I don't want to use the word comport yourself, because that may not be the right word to use, but how were you able to focus your mind amidst all of that destruction and death, and put in place a plan for reconstruction after Erica, where there was a significant recovery, and Maria, when they told us it would take 20 years, you did it within 4 or 5. What was your human reaction, and how did you focus as prime minister?
Well, Tony, as you know, I was among the first to get affected by the hurricane, with significant portions of the roof where I was staying blown away, so I had to endure several hours of the elements of Maria at the time, and truth be told, God be my witness, I wasn't praying for myself. I was praying that no other part of the country was suffering the same.
Wow.
And my mind fell on the Carnegie territory. My mind fell on places like Grafton and the eastern parts of the country that are vulnerable. And I was just hoping and praying that the only place this hurricane is hitting is Mount Daniel and nowhere in Dominica. Because I knew of the circumstance of many of these families in those communities. And I prayed for their safety and for their well-being at the time. And all I was doing was waiting for some daylight to appear, to hit the road. Because first, my wife, my family, my children were away from me at the time, and thank God for that, because if they were, they would have been sleeping on the bed, and that's where the roof came down first, and so the kids would have been dead, that time. And so the moment I saw daylight, I left the house and I walked from Mount Daniel to Santa Romo, to first check on my family there. Then I went to check on the police headquarters, and then I went to see whether the president was okay, because I had to ensure that we had a government in place to take the necessary action, because I had to declare a state of emergency. So we had no way to type it, and we had to get something to write it on and to eventually type it so that the president could sign the order to declare state of emergency in Dominica. And so my first order of business was after that was to start clearing. We had no communication in the rest of the world, and we had to do what we had to do. We had to do what we had to do, and to give hope and confidence. And so the other point I was preoccupied with, once we got contact with the rest of the world, was to bring as much food in Dominica as possible, to ensure that people had enough to eat and drink, and and start the rebuilding process right away. You know, yeah, it was a very difficult time. I had no contact with several of the ministers for some days, so I was literally alone for several days. Because everybody was cut, and luckily I got a helicopter to take me to many communities to reassure people. So I went to Grand Bay, I went to Grand Fond, I went to Portsmouth, I went to Dailies, I went to many communities across Dominica, to Baycast, to Penville, to give people the assurance that we shall overcome. And I walked around the communities in Roseau and Newtown and Goodwill, and giving people the hope and confidence that all is not lost. We're alive, and we shall rebound, and rebound we did.
What do you consider to be your biggest or most important achievement as Prime Minister? In all that you've become, I know you don't think about these things, but I think the people want to know, what do you consider to be your major achievement?
I think I don't know. There's so many things that we have done, because we inherited a country from ground zero, you know. I mean, you know, and we had to build things, not rebuild, because there was nothing there. You know, we had to build. You know, no planes could land at night in Dominica. You know, it was terrible. Every road in Dominica was in terrible condition. Every road in Dominica, wherever you see good road in Dominica, these things were built by us as Labour Party, you know. So I have not really spent time to pinpoint this, Tony. I leave it to the people to decide. But what I want people to always remember us for is that we were a government that cared for people. And we put people first. And I think that's what I would like people to remember at any time in their lifetime, that this government cared.
Yes, PM. You've said a lot so far. And and you know, I've always said to you, and you know, publicly, that my greatest source of admiration for you and your leadership is what you just said. How much you care about the people. And you have gotten flack for that from opposition forces, who claim that you are, you know, giving people handouts. And it's funny that a lot of the policies that you put in place that you criticize, now they come in and say you should give more. For example, you know, the 17 over contribution is 300. They say give 500. You know, all of a sudden, people promising, you know, $25,000 a household, you know, but
these are disingenuous people, you know. I mean, we're not on a betting table, you know. That's not how you treat human beings. You only do so when you're in Las Vegas, or in a casino, where a man put $200 on the table and you say 300, and next man say 500, and a man say 550. But guess what? Most of these guys gonna go home with no money. You know what I'm saying? So you don't gamble with people's lives like that. These policies are deliberate policies. They're carefully thought of. You have studied the sustaining of those programs. You have identified the goals and the mission of this program. It's not something that you just wake up next morning and say, okay, give people $400. No. This is I heard, for example, Dr. Thompson Fountain, one of the leaders of UWP, because there's several of them there, who said that who said that he's going to legislate the NEP. Does he know how the NEP functions? Does he know the various components of the NEP? So because he goes to Grand Fond, and he see that Grand Fond is beautiful, Grand Fond is clean, people are engaged, people are collecting their $1,000 and more every week, every month. Then something comes up in his bed and says, let us see if we can beat Skerrit and say we will legislate it. But legislate what? Legislate what? You do not know how it operates. And after you've denigrated the people who work on the NEP for so many years, that you denigrated them, that you look down upon them, that you now want to go to Parliament to pass a law to do what? What? You know, so nothing these guys say they're gonna do, people should trust, except when it's to destroy Dominica. That's all you can trust them on. That you know they're good at that. They're good at denigrating the country. They're good at speaking ill of Dominica, and they're good at attacking people and their integrity and their personalities, etc. That's what they're good at. But when it comes to building, working together, fostering a culture of peace and tolerance, you'll never see them happening. And you cannot call, I cannot need help, and you call me a beggar, and then tomorrow morning you feel motivated to help me. No, you'll never be genuine about this. So these policies, if they're not part of you, you'll never be able to think of them far more to sustain them. And these guys don't care about nobody, because if you care about people, you don't have to be in government to care about people. And anytime you're raising money for yourself, for yourself, it can't be right. We were in opposition. We had schools as Labour Party. We gave people scholarships. We brought doctors. We provide medication free of charge to people. We provided books to children go to school. We built roads in communities in opposition. So you don't have to be a Samaritan to be a good Samaritan. A Samaritan is anybody who decides to do good. But no, these guys are not interested in Dominica. So this is what they're doing, Donnie. They will try to fool people, recognizing that they believe that is what makes us win the election. That's not what makes us win the election. It might contribute to it. But I've said we're doing this enough for people to vote for us. If you want to vote for me because we gave you a home or we put your mother under the exchequer, fine. If you don't want to vote for me, fine, it's okay. But we're doing so from the genuineness of our hearts. So that's why I don't look for thanks and praise for these things, and we don't look for these things because this is like waking up next morning to me. I mean, and having coffee. It's part of me. So that's it. But as you know, Morrison, Thomas, we built International Airport.
Yes,
we invest in the geothermal. We have built and we're building hotels. We are improving the infrastructure. If you drive now to Seneca, you will be making noise with your mayor. You're telling Biden if he doesn't give you good roads, you're gonna vote for him.
That's for sure.
From a remote village like Seneca in
Yes.
a developing country can have so much good roads, and we in New York City, we in New Jersey and Connecticut that we have roads as if we in northern Uganda. Come on.
Yep. Yes.
Come on, Mr. Biden. Come on, what are you saying for elections? You see what I'm saying? I mean, and this is over $127 million invested. When people say, for example, there's some critics of the government who say, oh, well, we invested all the money in the international airport and we're not doing any other thing. We're not only doing the international airport. We're building homes, right? We invest in continuing to improve the healthcare. We're building 6 or 7 schools, right? We're building major infrastructure works. Very soon we'll sign a contract for the road from Loubaix to Bacatel and Grand Bay. That will cost us $171 million minimum.
Wow.
$171 million minimum, right? We're preparing lots, putting infrastructure in housing areas to sell lots to young professionals, because I'm encouraging every young Dominican to buy a piece of land in Dominica, as small as it may be. The bank has money. The credit union has money at lower interest rates. Go ahead and take a loan. Build the upstairs for you to stay, and build it downstairs to engage in Airbnb. Airbnb is a major area of money making for Dominicans. And let's invest. And so we're making lots available in Platmapier, in Hillsborough Gardens, in Canefield East, in Cotton Hill in Portsmouth. And we also been doing some lots in Jimmet to sell to Dominicans in Warner, significant number of lots. So we're targeting about, in the first instance, about 150 to 200 lots that will sell to young Dominicans to build homes. Let's take the money. Let's it's an asset. Let's not complain. Let's go and invest. Your salary, go to the credit union, 4%, 4.5%, 5%. Put the concrete down and have your own home in Dominica.
That's good rates.
So we encourage it. So there are a number of things happening besides the airport, but one cannot underestimate the importance of the international airport in respect to the transformation of Dominica. I believe it is the international airport that will bring the windfall to Dominica.
Yes, sir.
The windfall in agriculture, the windfall in consumption because we have more people coming in. We have contracted a loan, for example, from the Saudi Development Fund to do the roads enhancement project. We need the procurement processes of getting to that. So there are a number of things. We're doing the cable car, which is the longest cable car in the world, which is a major attraction for Dominicans. The hotels that have been done under the CBI project, facilitated by the government. Those that have been completed, those are on stream to be completed. All of those things that we're doing, small business, the $27 billion we put at the aid bank to on lend to Dominicans who have taken up about $16 million of that so far and more and counting to invest in buying of boats to pilot trade within the region in manufacturing, in agro-processing, in agriculture, and to name it, these people are investing heavily in Dominica. And so there are many other things happening in Dominica. Agriculture, with the monies that we borrowed from the World Bank. Just today we got a report from the minister that we're moving now into the construction and the fabrication of boats to give to fishermen. And then you're talking about then the other components to that. You're talking about housing, where we have over 200 homes under the housing recovery program under construction. As a matter of fact, in March, this next week, we'll be handing over 40 keys to 40 deserving beneficiaries, giving them keys to the brand new homes under the HRP. We have those things happening there. In health, there are a number of interventions that we're doing in health. Again, with a loan from the World Bank. You're talking about investments in the digital economy, where very soon we'll be providing grants, no loans, but grants to many persons who are involved in digital economy, using technology to create employment for themselves and others and providing services to the country. Grants totaling, I believe, in excess of $30,000-$40,000 that people can receive, 25,000 people can receive to expand and to sustain their businesses. So there are a number of things that we're doing in addition to the international airport. But we cannot underestimate the importance of the international airport to transforming Dominica. And I believe that that's a project that we should be wrapping around the national flag.
Yes.
Don't bother yourself about who is doing it. Somebody had to do it. Just happened to be this Labour Party, the government doing it. But this is a project that every party in the entire history of Dominica, way back in Frank Barron days and E.O. Libla days, we were looking to build an international airport. And it was elusive because you won't get monies from the international financial institutions to build this airport. You understand? And we're building the airport, utilizing the CBI program, so that there will not be any debt to Dominicans now and in the future. And there's no country in the world that has been able to build an international airport without contracting some kind of debt, either from the national government or from private entities. And we're doing this. And we're pushing at it. It's not an easy project to do because of the terrain. We're pushing at it. And I'm confident by the grace of God, this project will come to completion, and we will see how this will help transform Dominica. So we're looking up. We're looking up, and I think we are confident that we're in the right track, and Dominicans will see the benefit in years to come. And so these are some of the major investments we're making. Hundreds of millions of dollars being invested in Dominica. Hundreds of millions of dollars being invested in Dominica. And so Tony and colleagues and Donnie, at the time of the hurricane, at the time of the hurricane, when Hurricane Maria hit us, we had $389 million saved. And that's in addition to about 200 million for the airport. We were saving $5 million US every month to build the airport. And had it not been for Hurricane Maria, we would have had enough money in cash to build international airport cash.
Yeah.
And then we were saving, sorry, Tony, 1 second. And we were saving money. I was saving money as Minister of Finance then. At the time of the hurricane, we had $389 million saved. And my plan was to pay off our national debt with that money. We would have been the first developing country in the world with a 0% debt to GDP ratio. Pay off all our national debt. And had it not been for the hurricane, I would have had enough money now to pay off the national debt and still have a lot of change left. And what we're going to do with the monies that we're paying for our national debt, I was going to create a special fund, a special economic diversification fund, that money will go into that fund and would use it to invest in the economy, to diversify the economy, to sustain the economy into the infrastructure and social investments and economic investment in Dominica. And we would have been able to save on average maybe $140, $150 million every year by not paying our debt, because we had no debt to pay. And these are the steps we were taking. And this is the economic vision we have for Dominica. You know, to set ourselves on the sustainable path of progressive, far-reaching policies set by the government. But unfortunately, we were affected by this hurricane, and we had to use the money to build homes for people, to sustain people's livelihoods, to restore people's lives and livelihoods, and this is where it is. And I guess that's part of life. We can't live a life of regret and sadness over these elements because we had no control over the hurricane. But these are our realities. And I don't think any government in the history of Dominica would have ever thought of those policies. So I don't think we're thinking that way. We're really a peasant government that we've seen, you know, in terms of our thinking and our vision. And so when I hear people trying to criticize Roosevelt, Skerrit, and so on, I mean, I think they're being selfish. And some people who are criticizing us about the airport, I believe they've been narrowly selfish. And if you're genuine about Dominica, you can't only look about yourself. You have to be concerned about the country and not about the narrow sector that you're involved in or the narrow business that you're involved in. Because when the rain falls, it affects everybody.
PM, in view of the extreme importance of the Citizenship by Investment program, because what you've just said is premised largely, if not significantly, on it. How are the discussions going with the European Union, the United Kingdom, and the United States to protect the integrity and viability and benefit of the Citizenship by Investment program?
Well, we continue to discuss. As I said, we've had visits from the European Union. They spent a whole week in Dominica. They came to the CBI unit. They went to the immigration department. They went to the FIU. The UK came down as well a few days later for that visit. By and large, I believe that they expressed pleasure in what we've been doing. We have responded to some of their concerns. We have instituted comprehensive set of regulations that we finalized in December, I believe, last year, or January this year in Parliament. That's available. We have so we've responded to a lot of the challenge, the concerns in those new regulations. And so we continue to be dutiful and diligent with what we do. And we at the disposal in continued engagement. They said that they will send a report to us. We will set a recommendations. The idea was that the UK and the EU would meet and have joint recommendations to us as to how they believe that we can further improve on our systems. What we are doing, Tony, as a collective, Antigua, St. Kitts, Dominica, St. Lucia, and Grenada, is that we're now in the process of finalizing an MOU among ourselves to agree on some joint set of decisions. So one, we're proposing to have the same legislation. So we have uniform legislation on the CBI in the OECS countries, which is CBI. We have the same regulations. We're going to ensure that the application form is identical in every single jurisdiction. We have some of the things that we have started, the sharing of names that have been disapproved in one jurisdiction or another, and we have authorized impacts to provide that, and so forth. In our case, that's already in our legislation. We're also looking at the issue of price and having an increase in the price that's currently been offered. And we're looking at setting up a regional entity that would provide the oversight to all of our programs, independent of the respective governments. So there are a number of very progressive actions that we're proposing to take jointly. And I believe in the next few days, I have reviewed the MOU and we have sent in our comments on the MOU. And I'm hoping that the others can follow very quickly. I spoke to the Prime Minister of Grenada. He said he was going to forward Grenada's comments today in terms of the review. And I'm waiting on the chairman of the OECS to convene a meeting among ourselves, hopefully before the end of the week, so that we can finalize the MOU and start the process of implementing some of the measures we agreed jointly on.
Thank you, Pierre.
Yeah, thank you.
Morrison, any more questions from you? Unmute your mic, please.
Thank you, Donnie. I saw Kirby was trying to get in. Are you ready for Kirby?
If he is, I can go, yes.
Okay, go ahead, Kirby.
All right. So Prime Minister, a couple of things. One, you would have really touched on all of these massive projects that are ongoing. And that would have centered around one of the main questions that I wanted to ask you tonight. But just before I go there, earlier you were mentioning, you have always been known, I think, to everyone and all of Dominica as a very humble man. You do not like to sing your praises. So I guess it behooves or it rests on us as the citizens to do so. Your stellar leadership of Dominica, particularly through the turbulent times of 2015 and 2017, I mean, is just nothing short of phenomenal.
Yes.
And I am encouraged every day by your stewardship, because I think you see yourself more of a steward, as a steward to Dominica than just a leader. I think you have managed your country well, you have managed your resources well, and I wanted to just add that in there. Okay. As it relates to all of the projects that you would have mentioned, and you mentioned the international airport, a few weeks ago we would have had a very informative discussion where I actually did an outlining the many different governments, all the different governments that would have sought to do the airport. Something that we have not spoken on, and I'm wondering and hoping, sir, if you could speak to it. With all of these projects that we have in the pipeline in Dominica now, you name them, the international airport, the geothermal, the new cable car, the longest, I believe, in the world, all of these new hotels. Has any analysis been done on the impact or the prospective impact to jobs in the country and job availability in the country? Because I think that is something that we need to, and I would encourage us to speak to more so persons can understand what sort of impact this is going to have on our population.
We're not in these small islands. We're not very good at collating empirical data. Yeah, it's something statistics wise that we have to address. In all of our small countries in the Caribbean, statistical data is something that we don't pay attention to, and doing these kinds of analysis that you're speaking to, that we really don't do, and it's something that we really should be doing. But there's always a dearth in the Caribbean with regards to trained statisticians and social developers and economic developers who look at that kind of impact of government's policy interventions and how they impact on jobs and how they impact on way of life for the people, poverty alleviation, etc. But certainly in terms of the airport and the other projects, the direct jobs is that jobs they create during construction, and the indirect jobs, that they create because of the jobs created and the opportunities created. But also, when these projects are completed, they will help not only sustain the jobs that we have, but also spur on new investments will create more jobs. You understand? I mean, and I've said to Dominicans, we have to ensure that we place ourselves at the forefront of taking advantage of the opportunities, because if we don't, there'll be people who come from outside, and people who come from outside do see the opportunities and they place themselves.
Yeah,
you understand?
you're absolutely right.
Yeah, so we have to be careful, that while we're there bickering, people come and take the opportunities from us. So we have to look at the opportunities. So the impact on jobs, the impact on the economy is huge. It's huge, and procurement of goods and services that are directly related to the construction type and phase. I mean, and that itself will relate to increased consumption, and therefore your tax revenues would increase as a result of people having the ability to consume more. So there are a whole set of positive benefits that one can have with regards to those kinds of investments, and I was hoping that Dominicans can understand this and take advantage of them.
Yes, well, indeed, you're absolutely right, sir. And I would dare say while there are some persons who are seeking to make political mischief out of these developments, I think that most young persons and most persons in Dominica who are educated, who have the ability to think for themselves, are able to see the huge impact. And I'm glad that you touched on, I think there was a leader somewhere in the world that referred to the phrase trickle-down economics. I'm glad in a smaller sense that you referred to that, because while we may not have the exact data, I want persons to understand, persons who have had the opportunity to travel the world and seen the amount of employees at Miami International Airport, at Heathrow, at JFK, at the large airport in Dubai, and seeing the amount of persons who are employed. You can imagine an international airport in Dominica, the impact that is going to have on the national economy, specifically to do with services. My family, we're heavily involved in eggs and agriculture and things of that nature. All of those things are going to be impacted positively. And so, as you rightly said, son, I'm glad it came from your mouth and not mine, that we as Dominicans really need to prepare and position ourselves for when this boom actually comes, because it is on the way. Leave persons who are talking negative, leave persons who are, you know what they say now? And I was so disgusted recently. People are complaining about the road between Pigwa and Calibishi going down that way and all of that now. There's a larger development plan. And if you just listen, sometimes you hear a lot. This was always just a section of road. And of course, the intention, of course, after the airport is developed and all of that, all these things will be addressed. But there are persons who are looking for ways to nitpick and create issues. Right now, the road from Casa Bruce all the way down through the Carib territory is looking great. And so let us, I'm hoping that as Dominicans, and I'll end with this, that as Dominicans that we can really look towards benefiting from the many opportunities that are going to come out of this. And so that would be what I don't know if you'd have anything to add to that.
Yeah. I mean, we've heard people criticize, I mean, people who raise these issues of, okay, the road is bad because these are people who are trying to divert people's attention from the international airport project, because
Indeed.
For a while they were saying that it's a farce, there's no airport being built. Then every day they see the airport rising before their eyes, and the more, they would bring negative attention. I mean, look at we owe people for properties acquired from them. We got some money and we paid $15 million to people who owe in, and those who were say the government owing people were very upset that we got money to pay the people. So because they would like to keep that issue alive and to bring the airport into disrepute. So people focus on the negative aspect and not on the positive aspect. And this is not a good way to teach our children. This is not a good way to educate the existing and future and current generations. We have to let people appreciate what are the things happening, whether it's in our homes or in the country. I mean, if every one of our children, my dear friends, were to raise an issue with us on something that we have promised them that we will deliver to them, every parent will have problems.
Yep.
Every parent will have problems. I mean, you want to do something, but you're unable to do it. I put it this way. Look, how many people, Dominica, in this world, and even where you live in America or elsewhere, who just bought a home or is building a home, but you have an old motor car there that you really need to change, but you try to hold it on because you're building a house and you want to ensure that you can finish your house. So you figure, boy, when I finish the house, if I have a little money left, I can buy myself a better vehicle. But you may very well have to park the vehicle there and take the train, take the bus to go to work. Because your priority now is to build
your house,
yourself and a family a home that will provide better shelter for you and comfort. And also you have an asset that you can pass on to your children. And so you'll hold on to the old vehicle. You know what I'm saying? Or sometimes you're building a new house in the same yard, the new house is being built, and you're still living in the old house because you figure, boy, to go on rent and pay the mortgage at the same time, I can't afford it. So while I might be uncomfortable in the old little house in the yard made of plywood and galvanized, but I know in the next 6 months I'll be my brand new home. So I will hold this straight until I get it. And this is what we're doing. You'll always have an impact in one area when something is happening in another area. And see how China has been able to build China into a modern country. You know what China did? China did not try to build everything one time. They target provinces, and they would build that province to a level, and then they would use revenues from that province now to build another province. So the whole idea of a journey of 1,000 miles begin with the first step. You understand? But you'll always have inconveniences to when you have these things going. But Kirby, what they don't say is that even before we started the airport, we embarked upon a feasibility study for the reconstruction of the road from Pigwa to Borough Square in Portsmouth. And that we had gotten a grant of $2 million from the Kuwaiti Development Fund to help us carry out that feasibility study. So we do have a plan to,
I remember that very well.
Reconstruct the road. All of the bridges, make them 2 lanes, many areas, straighten the roads, etc., etc. So Donnie, you know Benz and Ansdeme as good as I do. So when you look, for example, this little bridge there in Asolda, the idea is that when you cut the road, you go straight to this. So all of this little area where Francois and his guys live and so on, all this area will be opening up, cut up. So you have as far as possible, you straighten up in Dodan and Bourne. There are a lot of corners that we have to eliminate and so on. So the drive would be much more comfortable, people, less sharp bends and corners and so on. So all of these things that the feasibility study took into consideration. And at the appropriate time, we will commence the improvements of that road to coincide with the completion of the international airport.
Donnie, I'll take the in there. Prime Minister, We all know about that meeting that they had on February 25th. And the focus of that meeting was, and we're talking about the United Workers' Party, the focus was about the country broke. 3 days later, on the 25th, on the February the 28th, and I'm reading from the Variety News Group, and a statement by the outgoing DDA CEO, Mr. Colin Piper, and he was referencing an International Monetary Fund report that indicated that a total of $15.4 million was spent by 4,635 visitors during Carnival of 2024, and indicated that an average of $3,323 were spent per person during the Carnival season. Prime Minister, talk to us about that infusion into the economy in that short space of time, in 2 weeks, and how the overflow benefits Dominican and the impact that it has on the cash flow in our Dominican economy.
I mean, in any given time, the government will owe somebody or the government will owe some entity. In some periods, maybe more pronounced than other periods. But we continue to meet our obligations as time goes by. But one has to appreciate too that we have several crucial and critical investments taking place in Dominica. You know, if we were to stop the international airport or cancel the geothermal, look, we're going to Parliament hopefully next month to approve a loan of $38.5 million for the geothermal project. You know, and count how much money we spent. If we decide that we're going to stop the housing, or if we're not going to stop the housing, but sell the homes, as I gave the maps, for example, under the HRP, the Housing Recovery Program, 420 homes have been constructed. If we were to sell these homes, even for $50,000 or $100,000, you guys do the math of how much money we can raise from this and the other homes that we're building. If we decide, okay, students, we're not going to give you 100% tuition fees, we're going to give you 40% tuition fees. That would save us several millions of dollars each year. Yeah, you understand what I'm saying? So we continue to provide to students. We continue to provide housing. We continue to invest in infrastructure. We continue to invest in the hotel. And so you will find that your revenue stream might not be, especially from the CBI standpoint, may not be as heavy as it's supposed to be. And because you're building all those other projects that will, in the long run, bring you the windfall that you need. You see. And so this is our focus and so on. But there are strategies for us to improve on the fiscal situation, and very soon we'll articulate some of those. But we have not defaulted on our loan payments or interest payments. We have paid salaries on time, always. The NEP gets paid on time. We had one glitch a couple of months last year. You know, we continue to provide transfers to many of the institutions, the schools that are non-government schools. So things happening. People may say that they know medicine at the hospital, but we find out not that we don't have the medicine. The medicine, there's a medication with different names. You know, so people may not, or they may needles with different brands of needles. So somebody may ask for a particular brand, but that brand may not be available, but there's another brand that's available. And so we've gotten a consultancy with the procurement services within the OECS to come in to do a proper inventory and to look at our systems and to enhance the data entry of our drugs so that doctors can have access on it online, et cetera, so that there's a better sharing of what we have and improve it. And what they find out now, they say, but you guys have drugs you can sell. That's what they're finding out. We have drugs we can sell. But because our inventory is not what it ought to be, sometimes you have things that you don't know that you have. So we're hoping that out of that we can improve on these things. So and of course you spoke about the investments. I mean, we invest heavily in Carnival, we invest heavily in the Curl Festival, we invest in the jazz, we invest in every village feast and every village carnival, all in an effort to attract people to Dominica. Even the ULP had to admit that this was one of the greatest carnivals that we've experienced.
And that's a lot of money in 2 weeks. That's
Yes,
a lot of money in
right.
2 weeks.
And then the carnival we knew before was Calypso Show, Queen Show, and Monday and Tuesday Carnival. But now Carnival in Dominica is 2 weeks before Carnival. We have a number of fringe events.
Yes.
Even after Carnival, you have fringe events. You understand? And all of these are all patronized maximum with ticket sale, tickets, VIP tickets at $300 or $250 or $270 or $290. You understand? And all of them are sold out. Then you have Independence Time and Curl Festival, where we invest between $10 and $12+ million to put the show on for the 3 nights. And there's thousands of people who come to Dominica. We have to, in a dramatic way, have to improve on the number of hotel rooms we have, the number of Airbnb and guest house rooms that we have, because we just do not have place to put down people who come to Dominica. We have to ensure that the restaurants have enough staff to feed people, because people want to eat, people want to dine, but we do not have. We have to improve on the capacity to be able to sustain the volume of consumption that takes place during that time. So there are a number of things that we're doing. As a matter of fact, hopefully in this budget coming, we're gonna declare a particular policy initiative where Airbnb is concerned, because Airbnb is a major factor in the tourism industry. I mean, the people who are registered with Airbnb and the people who are not registered. And I mean, we had. And so you have a lot of people coming to Dominica and prefer to go to the Airbnb and so forth. So it's a real source of extra revenue for a working person to be able to pay his mortgage and to live a better life. And so we need to find a way of facilitating that and structuring it and organizing it and regulating it. So people are spending. If you were to ask me, and I cannot lecture people on how to spend their money. I think that we have to watch what we spend on in Dominica, and I think that we have to be a little wiser and more prudent in our spending, because while I want you to spend so we can get more tax revenue, but I don't want you to spend your way out of this thing. Because money was never meant to be spent; it was meant to be managed, and sometimes we spend money rather than managing money, and when you spend money, you'll end up being broke. And then you'll end up saying the country hard, because you spend the money on things that are not a priority, and then when the priority hits you, you do not have the money because you were out fetting for 3 nights. And and when Monday morning comes or Ash Wednesday comes, as one person showed, they had about 10 or 15 tickets of all of the fets they went to. And when they do the math and they say, "Boy, look at me today, boy, I want some bread and cheese now." but when the person was shaking their pampalam or something on the show, they were enjoying themselves. Dominica sweet boy, but you have to manage your money and not spend it as sometimes people do, and we have to set priorities. So, but I'm not there to lecture people. It's a democracy. People have the money, it's a property, you can use it as you wish and how you wish. But you have to also be prepared to accept the consequences when they come to roost.
It was a good return on your investments. Go ahead, Donnie.
Yeah, PM. I grew up in a time when, Dominica was considered backward. Even Dominicans living in Dominica had that perception that we were inferior to even the other Windward Islands. And I traveled, as a young boy to play cricket, St. Vincent, St. Lucia, Grenada. And, you know, there was this taunting that you all were inferior. In recent times, we have seen Dominica prominently highlighted by some major networks and publications, to include CNN, National Geographic, Travel Advisor, Forbes magazine, and all have given Dominica extreme praise for its beauty, for its peace, for its development. And I'm asking, I know this doesn't happen magically. What do you attribute to this? Because right now we are a perennial all-star in the eyes of such people.
Well, you know, first of all, Donnie, I believe that we were, because of our circumstance back then, we always had to feel a bit inferior. I mean, can you imagine the indignity that we suffered in Barbados or in Antigua for many, many decades, when we would have been seated on a Liat flight and then the air hostess would announce that persons going to, or the pilot, persons going to Dominica will have to disembark, because by the time we get over Dominica, it'll be too dark. And that's around Christmas, and you know it gets dark early in Christmas time. That is after 4 in the afternoon. Understand? And our infrastructure was among the worst. Driving from the then Melbourne Airport to Rosa was a nightmare. Narrow roads, potholes. You had more potholes than road surface on these roads. And don't talk about driving from Rosa to Portsmouth. Oh Lord. And don't talk about driving in the city. You know what I'm saying? The little bridge we had, the West Bridge, you know, which was broken. Yeah. I mean, the infrastructure was terrible in Dominica, and poverty was high. But when we came to government, we embarked on a mission first to stabilize the finances of Dominica, by way of a structural adjustment program, and we were successful in doing so. One of the few countries in the world was successful in going through a structural adjustment program. Many countries failed. Many countries became worse than when they started, and all of the governments that entered into IMF program end up losing the elections. Okay, and so we have been able to in a systematic manner tackle the challenges of Dominica over the years. So education, health, improving the infrastructure, ensuring that we could grow more food and diversify agriculture. Okay, building a sense of national pride. You know, while we were advancing the economic diversification of Dominica and improvement to infrastructure, we also launched an assault on poverty in Dominica by our targeted social investment programs that could touch the lives of people in a meaningful way. And so if you look at our manifestos, carefully crafted and drafted and considered, it was clear that we want a path towards the radical transformation of Dominica, to a point today where you cannot speak about Dominica in any disparaging manner. The only people who speak about Dominica in any negative way or disparaging manner is Lennox Clinton and these people. That's the only people. When non-Dominicans speak about Dominica, they speak with a sense of internal pride themselves, of glorification, of applause. And the investments in the hotel plants and improving the hotel plants in Dominica, okay? The investment in infrastructure, and the investment in arts and culture, Curl Festival, Carnival, village carnivals, village feasts, okay? Sports, investments in sports. So these things have given us housing. I mean, when you speak about housing and in investment in housing, it is a point of reference for everybody. When you speak about the issue of climate resilience, we have popularized the word resilience in the context of climate change. That was not used before. We're now an example when it comes to a country's fight against the impacts on climate change. We've become a reference point when it comes to what a country can do, a small country can do in standing up to climate change by way of seeking to build a climate resilient country. And our investments in the festivals, for example, when people come to Dominica, Dominica is clean. Dominica is beautiful. When you compare Dominica 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 20 years ago, Dominica is clean. You drive from Scottsdale to Portsmouth. It's clean. You know, even when I see one cup on the side of the road, I get upset. You know, because we pride ourselves on beautification and the cleanliness of the country. Ensuring infrastructure is there. But when people come to Dominica, they feel safe too. And so Dominica now is becoming the capital of festivals in the Caribbean. Because when people come to Dominica, they are safe, they eat good food, they enjoy themselves, right? And they have a good time. Okay? And this is why we have to continue to invest heavily on creating more attractions in Dominica, that when the night falls, that people have places to go. This is why we encourage investments in restaurants and in hotel plans, you know, because really this is the business of the private sector. And so this is where we are, and we continue to do what we have to do. There's a lot of work that we have done. There's a lot more to be done. Our work is not over. And we only thank the Dominican people for giving us the trust and confidence to carry out the representation on the part. But we have had so much to deal with when we came in, plus what has been added to us by natural disasters and external shocks. I mean, where we are is extraordinary. And I would be first to say that we could be further, but sometimes the system is not as fast as I would like it to be. But that's the reality we have to face. And we just have to work around it sometimes to get all things done. But I recognize, comrades, that you told me 2.5 hours. Was it? I think you guys have me for extra 45 minutes there.
Them guys try to trick you, PM.
I think that's a conspiracy by the Mann brothers.
PM, I have a last question for you.
Yeah.
What is the status of the process of getting the electoral reform to Parliament? Where have you and the committee reached?
Where we have reached that, yeah, the Attorney General and a team has gone through this submission by Sir Dennis Byron. I think he has gone through it in a very meticulous manner. And I believe in the next couple of weeks, we should be able to submit to the public the elements that we believe we should take to Parliament on a first phase of electoral reform and modernization. And I'm hoping that we can post this to the public domain and then send this to the Electoral Commission and go to the Parliament. So that is completed. There were some additional workings that the AG also have looked at. I believe by now he'll have done that, and I'll get an updated report tomorrow as well from the Attorney General. But I think the AG and others have done a pretty good job of going through this submission by Sir Dennis Byron, taking into consideration the public comments and suggestions made in various consultations and by other means. And I believe that if we are serious about electoral reform, that which the Attorney General will submit to the public, I see no difficulty in the rest of all of us supporting it and moving ahead with some of the fundamental elements of electoral reform. And so I'm really hoping that before the budget address this year, that we can really go to Parliament and pass the legislation and then put that in the hands of the Electoral Commission to go ahead and implement that which Parliament would have approved and start the process of electoral modernization in Dominica. But we are absolutely committed to this. Obviously, it took the Attorney General and his team a little longer than we had wished, but it better, you know, it is Babs Dyer who said legal work is never rushed. And there were so many details that you had to cross-reference existing legislation, you had to cross-reference the Constitution to ensure that some of the suggestions by Sir Dennis Byron are in conformity and not in violation of the Constitution. As a matter of fact, the Attorney General picked up some of those that were in violation of the Constitution and could not stand. And so he had to speak to Sir Dennis Byron on a couple of occasions to draw those to his attention. So it's a very meticulous work, but that was done by the Attorney General and some lawyers. And the next step is to submit those in a transparent manner to the public, to all of the openly, everybody posting on government's website so everybody can read it who wants to read it. We've also taken into consideration some of the suggestions coming from the international observers, regional international observers. And I think that the work that's been done by the Attorney General and the legal team, I believe that exceptional work. I think now we have to put it now in the public domain so that people can give their final views before we send the draft legislation to the Electoral Commission as is required by the Constitution before we go to Parliament.
Consultation.
Yeah, for consultation. Yeah, for consultation, yeah. Before we go to Parliament. And I'm hoping that in the next 2 weeks we can put this thing out and give the public another 2 weeks to look at it and send it to the Electoral Commission and then go to Parliament maybe in May or thereabout, before Parliament would be suspended for the new financial year.
Thank you, Pierre.
PM,
and then in the budget, we'll make the necessary budgetary provisions to give the funds to the Electoral Commission to carry out its duties unimpeded.
Yeah, if you don't mind, Big Stroy is the guy, a friend who's carrying our broadcast live on his radio station in New York, and we thank him very much. And he said before you leave, he want to ask your question. So maybe we give the last question, if you don't mind.
Sure, man. Thank you very much, Fitzroy, for this courtesy of carrying out.
Yeah, congratulations on all achievements. I just want to ask you, what is your take on uniting Dominica, man? Because I'll tell you, as a young man, that's the most divided I've ever seen my country. I don't know if you're not seeing it, but I'm looking on the outside looking in. That's the worst. I know growing up, like election come, we talk, because I lived at Belfast State. My mother was a Puerto labor right. I saw my Young Freedom Movement t-shirt, and she told me, Pamenesa did a Kai Patrick John. But yet, I still go up my little freedom train, and when election done, everybody done. But right now, my brother, is like, it's so bad that it bothers me as a Dominican looking in. The level of, as I know there's husbands and wives and not even sleeping in the same bedroom because of red and blue. So what is your take on that, and what is your intention? How are you going to go about united Dominica? Because with all this achievement you say we haven't, if we are divided, it means nothing to me. Dominica look like it's on the way to be like a little Haiti, and I would hate to see that. So that's just my question for you tonight. Thank you.
Yeah, no, we're not on the path to Haiti, neither do we resemble it. I think all political actors in the country and those who support the political parties must understand that we have to respect the wishes of the voters. We fight an election, a party wins, then we live to fight. We live another day to fight. But we cannot want to be contesting every election that is won in Dominica, and to give false hope to our voters that the court will overturn an election if we challenge it. And every time we challenge elections, the courts throw out the challenges because they're frivolous and there's no basis in law to challenge those elections. I believe that there are people who in politics who believe that laziness is the route to success, and so they do not engage themselves in hard work. Being in politics is hard work. I mean, when you have to engage yourself in empathetic actions, it requires a lot of time, because you have to listen to people. You have to allow people to speak and to share their views and to share their frustrations, share their dreams, aspirations, and to help them fashion a response or strategy to overcome the challenges. You don't have that happening. And so there'll be people who believe that there are other reasons why the Labour Party and myself are winning elections. It's hard work. I work every single day of the year for 5 years. I don't sleep. I don't rest. I keep on working. And people have continued to show their trust and confidence in this party that I have the honor to lead. My brother Fisher, I have no malice or hatred towards anybody in Dominica. I've always promoted peace. I've always said to my supporters that we should not engage in any negative or confrontational actions. I believe in running away from trouble, running away from fights. Not that I can't fight, not that I can't face any battle, but we prefer go to the route of peace and engagement. So we are prepared to engage everybody. We are prepared to embrace everybody as a government. And it is left for the other side to understand that we're the government and we'll be the government as long as the people of Dominica continue to vote for us into government, and we have to respect that. But the reality is too, if you look at the point in time when things went west, is the truth and the record will show you that it is when Mr. Linton became the leader of the United Workers' Party. Prior to that, we could have engaged each other. When Mr. James was the leader of the opposition, we would break bread together, we would have dinner together at the parliament, we would make jokes. We never became personal, we never spoke about people's family in the parliament. We respected each other. If we had something to say, we would say it in the corridors of the parliament to each other quietly. Mr. James would call me on the phone, or I call him to consult him, we'll speak. And Earl Williams, Ron Green, same thing. But since this guy came into the politics, he's become nasty. He's become personal with people. He's vilified everybody. He's denigrated the country, and he was bad news to Dominican politics. You know, and Mr. James back then, I see now he's become a little bit troublesome. But back then, he knew how far to go, even when he was engaging the speaker. You know, he knew how far to go and how far not to go. But you see, when you give a guy like Mr. Linton a position where he doesn't have the intellectual capacity to function, then they will turn into all sorts of attitudes that are unbecoming of leaders. And the reality is, Mr. Linton might be able to plagiarize and he might be able to write something. But if you saw in Parliament, he couldn't stand for more than 2 minutes to speak on his feet, because he doesn't have the intellectual capacity to formulate words and to formulate thoughts and actions. And so he's allowed himself to be hijacked by a very small group within the UNLP, and he believed that small group could have sustained him and sustained his party. But when you have a political party, you have different views. It is left to you as a leader to provide leadership. There are people who believe that I'm too soft in my party. There are people who believe so. But I have to provide leadership to them and understand that we have to look at life from different perspectives. I have been faced with situations where I could have reacted to confrontations, whether it's in Pigwa or otherwise, but I chose to live for another day. Not because I cannot face confrontation, or I don't have people who are prepared to face confrontations with me. You know, but that's not what it is. I came to serve the people, and not to engage in confrontations. But so I am prepared to speak to Mr. Dr. Thompson Fontaine. I'm prepared to speak with Mr. Linton or Mr. James, to anyone or anybody who wants to meet with me and speak to me. There are people who people who I meet, and from time to me, they have a different perspective of me, because what they're hearing of me and the definition they have of me based on what they read or what they say is a different person. I'm not a person for war or for confrontation. So I agree with you that there should be a greater sense of camaraderie and working together and so forth. But the other thing you have is that there are people on the periphery of these political parties, of this political party, who know better, and who should be speaking better, and who should be admonishing those who are engaged and want to engage in those kinds of destabilizing tactics and promoting hatred and so forth. I don't think, why should somebody hate me? Why should somebody be envious of me? Why should somebody? I have only one vote. I mean, people vote for the party I lead, and I happen to be prime minister. But that doesn't give you a justification to hate me and so on. Why? I don't hate you. I don't even know some of these people, and I don't go to bed, thinking of these people, and I have other things to think of. I think of the people who we made promises to for building homes that we haven't built the homes. I think of other challenges countries have, and the region and the world has, and that we need to work on and so forth. These are the things that preoccupy my mind, but not on these people who are seeking to destabilize the country and believe that they're so important that Skerrit goes to bed thinking of them and he wakes up in the morning thinking of them. No, I can tell you that. I can tell you straight up. I have no time to waste on that. So I'm prepared to, if there are suggestions that people have, that what they think I can do as Prime Minister to bridge the gap, I am more than willing to hear the suggestions. But but as far as I am concerned, I have no ill feeling towards anybody. And if there's somebody in this country who should be angry, it should be me, because I'm the most vilified. I'm the one who is attacked and whose family is threatened, and to kidnap my children or kill my wife, you kill me, or you just see me in this. I mean, but I'm not upset. I'm not angry. But I'm not. So if I am not, then why should you be? Because nobody has said anything about you. Nobody has done anything to you. So we just have to accept. People have to accept that a party will win, a party will lose, and that's it. And then the point is, unfortunately, you have some people who've been part of the ELP for many years, since its foundation, its formation, and who continue to invest, but because of poor leadership and poor guidance, continue to be in opposition. And so these people feel a bit betrayed by the ELP. They feel upset, and they figure maybe Skerrit is not there, that we might win. But as Toussaint Louverture said to the French when he was captured, that by cutting me, you're not killing essentially the revolution, because the roots shall spring up. The roots shall spring up. And that's what happened. The roots sprung up, and there was a revolution, a successful one. So by killing me, you cut in the trunk of the tree, so people have to do the work, and I have no ill feeling towards this. But we still live in peace and love, the majority of us, including some UWP. So it's not as when you reach Facebook, my brother, you believe that Dominica is burdened, but the Facebook are people in Brooklyn, with 10, 15 different identifications, so and sometimes those are the people who do not have the proper documentations. So, and they get angry because they believe it's Skerrit that had them in America. Why have an American, my brother? If you You want to come down to Dominica. If you don't have a passport, we can give you a travel document that can get you to Dominica. So don't blame me. So really a few diasporans, as they call them these days, who are engaging themselves in this attempt to stir up a revolution or overthrow of by any means necessary of the government. Gabriel Christian who playing brave with his Belarusian voice, and others who can shout on the radio and type things behind a screen and so forth. But at the end of the day, Dominica is peaceful. We're nice. We go about our business. By and large, respectful of each other. And so we have to work towards improving on it, and that's what we continue to do. But
respect the answer, my brother.
Yeah, no problem. Anytime. But so we cool. I think I agree with you. I mean, things have changed a bit. You understand? Things have changed a bit. There's too much spewing of hate, which is not necessary. But which is absolutely not necessary. I mean, the reality is, come and fight me. Come and fight us in election. Let's know that you're gonna lose, and the UWP is gonna be in opposition for a very, very long time. This is why they're trying to create a new party and to get rid of that acronym UWP. And this is why Mr. Linton is taking another faction, because he wants to get back, because that's the only thing that made him relevant. The leader of the parliamentary opposition. Let me tell you, Mr. Love that thing. I know the man not even in the yard. The man out in the bushes. And yeah, he gave a little president post in the party. Thompson and his faction take the party away from the man. And then the man and Mr. James at 80 years, they're trying to recapture the party. But the party gonna leave you, man. Your political obituary. So
since Carnival done, have you heard from Mr. Abdullah yet?
No, I haven't heard from them yet. And they believe a little Calypso can take out Skerrit from government. A little Calypso, give me a break. Before Ash Wednesday come Calypso dead. You can't, a little Calypso, and maybe a little Calypso can take out Skerrit. It's Calypso. Also watch Calypso man sing in the last 20 years, and we're in bigger and better. I mean, it's Calypso. When I put a tune down, then the tune go down. You see what I'm saying? The tune make a top hit in the Caribbean. Calypso. Every married girl and them Calypso can go to.
I expecting a Calypso from you next year.
Yeah, that thing on any boat, they put it down. So I mean, men have to. Yeah, no, look, you see what I'm saying? So even all of these things that they politicize the Calypso so much that, can you imagine 10, 15 years ago, if anybody thought of having an event on Calypso night, they'll call you a madman. Now, if you have an event on Calypso night, they call you a genius. because you'll make money, and so forth. And I suspect the only way that Calypso can revive, you can have a big crowd carnival for Calypso night. I suspect Happy going to carnival Calypso. Yeah, so I may come in the ring next year. Yeah, I will come in the ring. My name will be the Unbeatable.
Oh boy!
Well, Conrad, it's been a wonderful night. I will stay all night long talking to you. But thank you for inviting me. Feel free to invite me any other time. But it's really good work you're doing. I think this is healthy, and this is what Comrade Fitzroy should be engaging in as opposition, as social practitioners, whatever it is. And let's talk about Dominica. But let's do
one thing before you go. You see, when you're chilling at night to get all that politics away from your head, you tune into VTJM radio, my brother, 24 hours, and you get all that soothing music. And no,
VTG
you
and radio.
just get away from all that thing,
I will
man.
listen-
Not
I will-
listen, just chill and
I will
listen
listen to you from tonight.
radio, the evolution of internet radio. Nobody
Yes.
does it better than me.
And
Yes,
I'm
excellent.
also a DJ on the station, 5 to 8 on Saturdays.
5 to 8 Saturdays.
Zouk
Wow.
Compa and Caras.
Yes, I should totally listening to you now. There's Zook and Company. But congrats, but excellent work. Congratulations on that. I mean, it's super work where you can connect the diaspora with what's happening in Dominican. I mean, you guys are more informed than I am, it appears. And so I mean, feel free to invite me anytime. I'm available. We didn't get to speak about Haiti. Maybe some other time we can speak about Haiti, but we're doing everything possible. There's a meeting going on as we speak in Jamaica. Unfortunately, I couldn't make it because I had a family event to attend to today. But I'm keeping my phone informed as to what's happening, and we're looking forward to some kind of path to political resolution in Haiti. And coming out of that, maybe to address the security situation and prepare Haiti for elections. So let's hope that we can get the stakeholders to agree to what has been suggested, and that we can bring some level of normalcy to assist the nation of Haiti, the first a free Black country in the Western Hemisphere.
Yes.
Indeed. Yes.
PM,
And
thank
for
you
me
very
to-
much. Very, very much for being with us. I mean, we have so much to talk about, but I know your time is limited. You're a very busy man, but we really thank you for taking time off to
Indeed.
be with us, and we really appreciate everything you do for our country. You are a visionary leader, and we're grateful for what you have done for Dominica and for Dominicans. And we wish you all the best with you and your family. God bless you. I give you the guidance and the strength and the energy to keep working for us. So thank you very much. And comrades, thank you very much for being on. Have a wonderful evening, and God bless.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. God bless you, PM.
Bye-bye. Take care.
All right.
Yes. Morrison. Everybody,
I thought we were having a postmortem.
that's what I thought. Everybody absconded.
Yeah, they couldn't, but it was a good show.
Yeah,
There's so many questions, many more questions, but
I wanted to talk about the TLFon. We didn't have time.
yeah, all that, right. But it's
nice,
it's always good.
nice.
But,
Touching base, doing big
the
things.
Prime Minister. Yes, sir. Always good to give the Prime Minister.
Yeah, man. You're clean tonight. No hiccups.
No hiccups. Good.
Enough
Good.
listeners on there, my brother. All over the place.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
You didn't even get a chance to big up the listeners, though.
Yeah, when the PM is on, you really have to let him speak. So a lot of stuff we had to cut out, But it was a wonderful program, and
yes.
Let me say good night and thank you to the listeners, everybody who tuned in. Thank you so very much. I hope you enjoyed the program. The Prime Minister did put up a lot of information, and we look forward to having him again some other time, whenever he's available. But you have been a very loyal and good audience, and we thank you very, very much. Let me say thank you to the Mann family up in Connecticut and Mann's Audiovisual for your professional work, helping us, put out a quality product to the audience. So thank you. Have a wonderful evening, everybody, and we will see you again next week, God's willing. Ambrose, thank you very much. Good night. Kojak, big up to you, man.
You want to Mills, man?
Much love.
Mills went to sleep?
No. Mills had some technical problems. So.
Oh, okay. Wow.
Yeah. All right, brother.
All right, man. Blessed night. Morrison.
Have a good night.
All right,
good night, all.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right.
Yes. Good night.
Thank you for joining us for another power-packed message from Dr. Miles Monroe, provided by Monroe Global Incorporated and MonroeGlobal.com. We transform followers into leaders and leaders into agents of change. We hope that this message is a blessing to you as you advance your life and discover your purpose. Now, let's go into the message.
Discovering your personal leadership. Whenever there is an invitation for people to attend a leadership event or to participate in a leadership conference like this, most people respond to that invitation with the attitude that that is not for me. That response is proof that your culture has done an excellent job in canceling who you are. This place, for example, would have been filled to capacity if we had said, come to a miracle service. So this doesn't affect me at all. I know exactly what's going on here. I expected you, and only you. I'm not impressed with crowds. You see me? I speak to them all the time, millions of them. My real love is people like you who believe that this is for you. You know, Jesus didn't like crowds. He didn't trust them. Because he understood the strategy for changing the world. And the strategy for changing the world is not large meetings or big events. It's small groups committed to intensive transformation. So he chose 12 people. Can you imagine someone who came to change the world only chose 12 people? And his only focus with them was on leadership development. He started with raw material, which means these 12 specimens had no formal training in leadership. What I thought was a good strategy that he used was he at least chose businessmen. I like business people. Religious people are problems. So the people he chose were business people and professional people. Like Matthew was an accountant. Luke was a doctor, a medical doctor. Peter, James, and John owned a fishing company. These were businessmen. And the number one business of that day was fishing in that village around Galilee. So these guys were owners of the top business industry. That's who he chose. Because he wanted to produce leaders. One time, his crowd grew too much. You all would remember that one day the people stayed with him for 3 days and they ran out of food. He decided it's my responsibility to make sure that they are fed before they go home. So we know the story. He worked a miracle, multiplied fish and bread, and he fed them. And the Bible says after that meeting was over, 70 joined him. 70. Can you imagine having 12 people and all of a sudden you grew by 70%? Now normally when you grow by 70% you are excited. Jesus was not. He was suspicious. Why? Because he understands big crowds. They are not interested in changing. They're interested in feeding. So he turned to the 70 and he asked them a question. Why do you follow me? That was the question. Now, normally, if you are a pastor, and your church grew by 70% in one day, you wouldn't ask that question. Matter of fact, you would say, thank you all for coming. But his suspicion was high. He said, why do you follow me? And then he answered the question for them. I know why you follow me. Is it not because of the fish and bread I fed you yesterday? See, there are people who just want miracles, but they don't want to change. And miracles never change people. You would remember the children of Israel. They saw more miracles than any of you could dream of. And in the end, they were still cursing God. And then Jesus tops it off by saying, if you seek for a miracle, you are a wicked and adulterous generation. So he asked them, why are you with me? It's only because of the fish and bread. You just want stuff from me. You want handouts. You people ain't interested in changing the world. You just want welfare. Watch him now. He says, look, if you want to follow me, if you want to be my disciple, he says, you must stop looking for the bread and the fish, and you must feed on me. Eat my flesh, he says, and drink my blood. You know, those are the kinds of people who are here in this seminar tonight. I consider you very rare people. I'm not surprised. I tell you, I work with crowds. I don't trust. It's those who show up in the morning sessions, they're the ones I believe. Those ones who come to the workshops, they're the real people. They're the ones who God will spend his time with and give them what they expected and more. The Bible says when the 70 heard this, I must eat your flesh and drink your blood, feed on you. It says, they said to each other, this is a hard saying. In other words, you are demanding too much. You want us to stay with you and look to you for our livelihood? It says, they forsook him and walked away. Could you imagine losing 70% of your members in one day? Sure, it can happen. But what intrigued me and impressed me is what he did after they left. It was a leadership act. Because he was training now these 12 guys, okay? So he turns to the 12, this text says, and asks them a question. Will you leave also? In other words, are you just like them? He also meant, I will do this by myself. By the way, that's one of the most important principles of leadership, you know. Finding something worth doing by yourself. That's good. If you need people to like you and approve of you for you to do what you're doing, you are not a leader yet. You're a politician. He was willing to go alone. Peter spoke up and said, Master, Rabbi, which means master teacher. I'm going to paraphrase Peter, okay, a little bit. Peter probably said, we think you are crazy, Jesus. We too think you are a little bit weird, but you make sense to us. In you, he says, we have found the words that give us life or give our life meaning. That's what leaders do. Leaders give people's lives meaning. That's why they follow you. People will follow you when they receive a sense of significance for their own lives. Peter's answer was powerful. In you, we have found the words that give us life. Our business was doing great. You know, we have a company, but you have shown us that we could do more than just business. We can change the world. And that's why we're here in this seminar the next 2 days. I guarantee you, if you listen to me very carefully, the next 48 hours, you are going to be transformed as a person. But you got to listen. You got to feed on me just a little bit. Because what I'm teaching you is what I live. And it begins with discovering what I call your personal leadership. Leadership does not begin with people. It begins with you first. Let me give you a couple of things to write down, because I'm giving you what they never taught me in church. And that is, everyone is a leader. Pastors are afraid to say that because they don't want no competition in the pulpit. But leadership begins with how you think. So let me give you my philosophy of leadership that I had to discover for myself to become the person I am. Everyone was created to lead. Say that with me. Everyone was created to lead. Say it again. Everyone was created to lead. That's a tough statement. Most of you don't believe that statement. I understand it. I understand. Because I was the same way. Because when you read that statement, there is a contradiction in your mind right now. There's a battle going on. I know what the battle is. The battle is a question. If everyone was created to lead, then who's going to follow? And there's your battle. I'll give you another statement. Write this down. Trapped in every follower is a hidden leader. These are philosophical statements, but they are very important, because leadership begins with your belief. And your belief system determines your philosophy of life. If every follower is a leader, then the question becomes a problem again. What happens when they all become leaders? Who's going to follow? The fact that you ask that question is proof that you've been successfully convinced by your culture that only a certain type and group of people were born to lead, while the other masses were designed to follow. That's really what you believe. That's why the question arises. Because you cannot see in your mind everyone being a leader. You have problems in your mind. I had the same problems. And this is why I teach this so hard. Because it is that belief, that subtle belief that's in your mind that's trapping you right now. For example, in my mind, there is no economic crisis. But that's because of the way I think. So your thinking is your life. I'll give you another statement to write down. You were created to lead and designed to dominate. Say it with me. I was created to lead and designed to dominate. Now the words are very powerful. You don't evolve into a leader. You were created to be one. The manufacturer actually had leadership in mind when he created you. But look at what they've done to you. They've made you an employee. And they told you where you can be employed and where you cannot be employed. And then they restrict how far you can rise in that employment. That's right. What have they done to you? It's because nobody has challenged the system. This philosophy is not new that I'm teaching. It's as old as God. Write this statement down, please. True leadership is self-discovery. True leadership begins with an individual discovering something about themselves. That's when it really begins. And you will never become a true leader until you are introduced to yourself. You know, if you were to study the leaders of history who really changed the world, beginning with people like Moses maybe, you know, here Moses is on a job. He's employed by his father-in-law. Employment. So he thinks he's a shepherd. You know, that's what I do. That's my job. And then he meets his manufacturer. The manufacturer says to him, you are the deliverer and the leader of 1 million people. You are also an author of the first 5 books of the Bible. You are the leader of a labor force. You are a lawgiver for all the nations of the world. They're going to steal your laws and use them. His answer, you must be talking to somebody else. You see, when you meet yourself, you're always afraid. Most of you are afraid of yourself because yourself does not agree with who you've become. You think you are a shepherd, a manager, a supervisor, and your real self is the first prime minister of a country called Israel. And when I introduce myself to myself, myself says to myself, that's not me. And I argue for 3 weeks with myself. Gideon. Remember Gideon? Hiding under the floor, trembling in fear from the enemy outside. And then the manufacturer shows up. Good evening, Gideon. Do you know who you are? You are a mighty man of valor. Gideon says, who you talking to? You see, when you meet yourself, you can't believe yourself. And we are so corrupted by our culture, we actually argue with ourselves with good arguments. Gideon says, I was born in the wrong family. Born in the wrong clan, born on the different side of the track. Are you crazy? People like us don't be valors. We ain't mighty warriors. We are cowards. And the manufacturer says, you are a mighty man of valor. He says, tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to put a fleece outside. In the morning, if it's wet, I'll believe you. So he put the fleece, it's wet. He said, just to make sure, if I put it out again, if it's dry in the morning. In other words, here we are, fussing with ourselves. You know why I came here to this conference? I came here to introduce you to yourself. What you are doing is embarrassing to God. What you are proud of, he's ashamed of. What you settle for is a shock to heaven. I know what I'm talking about. I was there. You got to discover something. And that's where leadership begins. It begins with self-discovery. I want you to take a look at this slide. This is a car. You ever seen a car like that before? That's a car. 40,000 parts or more make up a car. That's a car, taken apart. Now, I show you that for a reason. I want to ask you a question. Here's the question. Which part of this car is the most important part of the car? You look at the engine of the car. What is the most important part of the engine? I mean, these questions are important. 40,000 parts. Which part is the most important? Your car in the parking lot has a great engine in it. Beautiful parts. But the question is, which part is the most important? Now, I'm going to show you two parts here. The battery is the big boy. So if I was to ask you which is the most important part of your engine, you would probably say the battery, because the battery has all the power. Powerful. You know, we like powerful people, don't we? Power. Hallelujah, power. You know, we like power. So we go for the power. We say the battery is the most important person in the car because the battery has the power to get things started. Well, I disagree. So who's the lead in this engine? Is it the battery? Well, we got a little thing on the side called the spark plug. Now the battery probably costs about 150 bucks. Spark plugs costs about maybe, $10. So we got difference in value as well. Can the battery become more important than the spark plugs? If you remove the spark plugs, the battery is useless. So who's more important? Well, I don't know yet. I'm going to show you something else. Right in the middle of this picture, there is a little wire. Right in the middle, in the background. See a little wire? It's called a terminal wire. The terminal wire is what you connect to the battery and to the generator. The terminal wire costs $4. The battery costs $150. Who's more important in this car? Well, let's find out. With all the power the battery has, if you remove that $4 wire from the battery's terminal, the battery is useless. So who's the leader? Well, let's find out here. All the power trapped in the battery. The battery is useless to the car without a $4 wire. Who's the most important person in your organization? Is it the CEO or the maintenance woman? Is it the secretary who types? Or is it the manager of stores that oversee resources? Who really is the leader? See, this scenario is an interesting one because that $4 wire can shut the car down. The car is worth $80,000. $4 can shut it down. Isn't that amazing? Now the problem is this little terminal wire has to connect to the battery and to the generator. And all it does is a function called transfer. It transfers power to the generator that hits the spark, that turns the shaft, that causes that whole engine to turn over, to cause the wheels to turn, and you can control it. Transfer. The only problem is the terminal wire has no power. It's just a transfer function. The only problem with the battery is it cannot transfer. It has all the power. The only problem with the spark plug is it ain't got no power and can't transfer, but it can produce fire. So who's the leader in this whole situation? No one and everyone. That's the answer. Here's the answer. Everyone is a leader in their area of functioning. Write it down. This is the concept of leadership that God introduced. Every part of the car is a leader in its area of functioning. So we have to respect each part. They have successfully convinced you that you are useless. And they use you to do what they want you to do. They meaning your culture. And you obey them because you don't know who you were born to be. You have no idea what your function is. When I discovered who I was, I became free from them. I began to dictate my own value. Therefore, I told them, you need me. Come on, say it. You need me. Say it like you feel it. You need me. See, you become a leader when you discover that one discovery. They need me. The world needs me. Say it. The world needs me. Say it loud. The world needs. I want you to say it with a revelation. Come on, say it. The world needs me. Let me tell you something. If you discover that, you become dangerous. You are not an accident. You are an assignment. That's good. Leadership. You know, we talk about leadership. This is a photograph of all of the leaders in the world together, the present ones, and a recent photograph taken. And I want to talk in this session about some of the areas I want to cover very quickly. First, my objective is to help you to see that we need and value leadership. Secondly, we want to talk about what leadership is, what it takes to become a leader. We want to talk about the principles of leadership tomorrow and the art of leading, how to do it. And then we want to talk about the cost and the price of becoming a leader. It is costly. And this is why we love following so much. It doesn't cost much to follow. But yet, when you follow, you hardly ever find out who you are. So you want to talk about those things. Now here's a leader that you all are acquainted with. He spent time in this state, born here. Walking through the airport of this state capital, they have his coat and tie. You'd wonder, why would someone want to put a man's coat on display in an airport? And we won't ever see your coat. I'm going to explain to you why, okay? And hopefully, if you get this revelation I'm going to teach you in this leadership seminar, they'll want your coat also. Leadership is an amazing thing. First of all, here's why leadership is important. Write this down. Nothing happens without leadership. Nothing happens without leadership. Number two, nothing changes without leadership. Number three, nothing develops without someone taking leadership. Number four, nothing improves in any situation without leadership. Number 5, nothing is corrected without leadership. If something is not right in an environment, someone has to emerge and take the leadership. Number 6, nothing advances without leadership. Number 7, nothing succeeds without leadership. Number 8 is a reminder. We are always being led by someone, whether we think so or not. So look at how important leadership is. It improves, it changes, it develops, it corrects, it advances, and it brings success in life. This is probably one of the reasons why the religious people are so ineffective, because they pray too much for things to be corrected, to change, to improve, to develop, to advance, and to succeed. I think one day Rosa Parks decided to stop praying. That's all. What made her a leader? She just decided, no more prayer. I'm now going to be active. This is why the drug problem in your community is so diabolically destructive, because you keep praying for them. You wouldn't do anything. Leadership is born when toleration ends. Why? Whatever you tolerate, you will never change. What did I say? Whatever you tolerate, you will never change. This is why there are very few leaders in your city. Your toleration level is very high. Leaders are usually angry people. As a matter of fact, you will learn tomorrow night the secret to becoming a true leader. And one of the secrets is anger.
Yes, Lord.
Wow. When you decide, I have had enough, a leader is about to be born.
Yes, yes. Thank you.
Toleration is the graveyard of leaders. And that's why we lack leadership in the 21st century. Everybody wants to be liked. Nobody wants to rock the boat. And that's why we're not leaders, because we want everyone to agree with us. So what we have is companies and churches and nations that are overmanaged and underled. Don't ever confuse a manager with a leader. No manager is a leader. But leaders are managers. What's the difference between a manager and a leader? In my book on the table called Becoming a Leader, make sure you read that book. It deals with this subject. But let me give you a hint. A manager maintains things. A leader changes everything. A manager follows policy. A leader creates policy. A manager keeps tradition. Leaders break it. Managers focus on the bottom line. How much is it going to cost? Leaders focus on the horizon. Let's do it.
Yes.
Managers focus on doing the right thing. Leaders are very unique. Managers are always focusing on doing things the right way, is what I'm saying. Leaders want to know whether we're doing the right thing. If you are led by a manager, you will never grow. If your pastor is a manager, the church is stuck. If your department is headed by a manager, it will never expand. If your husband is a manager, your family is stuck. So we need managers, but we need leaders more than managers. Because leaders is what give managers work to do. Let me ask some questions. These are some interesting questions I pose to students everywhere. I teach this in universities and I do surveys. And here's my question I give them. Is leadership about power? What do you think? No, okay. Is it about position? Is leadership about talent? You sure? Is leadership about skill? It's a skillful person. Is leadership about authority? Is leadership about status in your society? Is leadership really about charisma? By the way, the word charisma is a Greek word. It's a very dangerous word. It's invented by the Greeks. Some of y'all call yourselves charismatics. Be careful. It's a Greek word. It means giftings of the gods, plural, gods. Because they were polytheist. They believed in many gods. Charisma. The giftings of the gods. Paul used it. He borrowed the Greek word to teach on the gifts of the Holy Spirit. But it's a Greek word. Charisma. We have our own idea what that means. Last question, are leaders born or made? Very important question. Some people struggle with that. I answered it years ago. I'm clear in my head. So the question is, when does one become a leader? It's a tough question, you know, because the question would be, when did Rosa Parks become a leader? See, you don't need to be a PhD from a college to be a leader. You can just be an old lady on a bus. I told you everybody's a leader. Everybody's a leader. The problem is they haven't told you how to become one. She discovered something. Don't die the way you are. Don't give them the privilege of firing you. You're better than that. Don't let people terminate what you call a career. How dare you allow people to cancel your life with a pink slip? This is crazy. That's why we're here. The dumbest animal on the planet is a sheep. Some of y'all don't know that. In case you don't, I'm going to say it again. The dumbest animal God made is a sheep. Do you know why? There are no leading sheep. I want you to study a flock of sheep anywhere. You will never see a leader. It's the only animal in the world that doesn't have a leader. Elephants have a leader. Bulls have a leader. You know, bees have a leader. Everyone except the sheep. If someone say you are a sheep, that's not a compliment. And religious people love the word. They love it. I am God's flock. That's not a compliment. Follow me. I'm going to show you how we are screwed up. Even in our theology has made us what we are. The sheep is the dumbest animal because he will follow anyone because he has no leader. So I have a little test for you. If an army of sheep is led by a lion, do you believe they will always defeat an army of lions if they are led by a sheep? And the answer is yes. An army of sheep led by a lion will defeat an army of lions if the lions are led by a sheep. What's the moral of this parable? Here it is. Write it down. Number one, leadership determines the quality of the followers. You know, a good leader can transform cowards into warriors. A good leader can transform frightened people into fearless people. Again, what a state to be teaching this principle. The state of Georgia. Years of oppression. And then a short little preacher became a lion. And he motivated frightened people to stand in the face of water hoses. He turned little girls into giants who could face dogs. I mean, this is leadership is so powerful. It can transform cowards. Here's what it means. Number two, leadership determines the mentality of the followers. This is how powerful leadership is. Leadership also determines the morality of the followers. Your morale and your morals can be transformed by the right kind of leader. Leadership also determines the attitude of the follower. In essence, leadership determines the commitment of the follower. That's why we need you. We need you to discover your leadership, because there are people in your city who are being abused by the system. And they need someone to emerge who will give them hope. Because leadership determines the destiny of followers. I couldn't say it any better than my own greatest leader of all time, the ultimate leader of life, when he said these words: if the blind lead, wow. If the blind lead the blind, he says, they both fall into the ditch, which means the leader determines the destination of the followers. That's how powerful leadership is. Let me tell you something about your life. You are exactly where someone led you. If you don't like where you are right now in your life, you're going to have to reconsider changing leadership. You know why I love this church? This is the second time I'm here doing this. I mean, this church, do you know, listen, do you know how many people wanted me tonight? I'm talking about massive organizations in the world wanted me. I decided I like this man's desire. They wanted me to stay in Israel 3 extra days. I said, no, I'm going to Atlanta. Why? There's someone there who believes they could do better. I don't think the members of this church really know who their pastor is. See, your problem is you want to shout and sing hallelujah, and then die broken sick. This conference is about to set you free from that stuff.
Yes, sir.
Makes me so sad. See people, having religious, feel all this emotional stuff. Because they are sheep. They just follow anybody. People come in town with a white suit, white Bible, white shoes. They run to that person. Just sheep. If the blind, what? Lead. You know what Jesus is just telling us? He's telling us it's possible for a person to be in charge with a title, with a position, with power, with influence, and still be blind. Don't ever be impressed with power. Don't be impressed with position. Ask the question, where we going? What's our destination? Because I might not want to go with you. Hello, somebody. See, that's how powerful leadership is. Leadership will lead you to their destiny. Some of you know the story about Jim Jones in Guyana. Sheep. I mean, sensible people with a brain with 500 billion cells followed a man in a bush and drank poison because they never asked the question, where are we going? What is your vision? Write this down.